men are stuck in this, because females have embraced that identity which is masculine, that is empowered, that is strong, that is independent. Female have got this identity from that nurturing, caring identity. They are repressing that identity now. Female are becoming, masculine. Female are becoming dominating. So they are actively repressing their feminine side, and this has been, causing really identity issues and real, cultural instability. This feminist ideology stepped into this mindset of all the females that exist all around, and then that feminist ideology stepped to all the systems that we see, transformed those systems and turned them, anti-men. And then those systems are traumatizing men, and then those men are again traumatized, and they are becoming, anti-woman, and the entire is becoming, confused and, towards this their identities, social standing, rights, everything. So this trauma bonding, this trauma sharing, is this the game at cultural level this gender wars is trying to play? So I'm just making you all conscious about what is happening in the background. Hello everyone, मैं ईशान परिहार, यहाँ पे हमारे साथ है डीवी. हम यहाँ पे डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं अतुल सुभाष के केस के रिगार्डिंग, और हमारे कॉम्प्लेक्स अडेप्टिव सिस्टम यानी पूरी सोसाइटी और समाज और अपना लीगल सिस्टम, जस्टिस सिस्टम क्या चल रहा है, एक्चुअल सिचुएशन क्या है. तो एक बात मैं यहाँ पे रखना चाहूंगा कि यह वीडियो नॉर्मल यूट्यूब या फिर न्यूज के जैसी नहीं होगी. यहाँ पे आपको वो चीजें जानने को मिलेंगी, उस डेप्थ पे चीजें मिलेंगी जो कि शायद ही कोई बात कर रहा. तो अब मैं इस चीज को मैं बता सकता हूँ इंटीग्रल थ्योरी से रिगार्डिंग एंड सोशियोलॉजी और मेल राइट्स एंड रिलेटेड काफी मैं टाइम दिया है रिसर्च करने में, एंड आई हैव इन्वॉल्वड इन वेरियस कम्युनिटीज रिगार्डिंग टू मेंस राइट, एंड आई हैव आल्सो बीन हैव एक्सपोजर ऑफ वेरियस लॉयर्स हु आर इन द फील्ड, एंड I am aware of what has happening in the society. I have this sense of urgency and need regarding understanding the societal issues and bringing them to the light, which is very important that most of the people should know and should take responsibility and should address these issues, which most of them are at this time confused, and most of them are unaware of this complexities that are arising at this time. तो अभी अतुल सुभाष के केस में हो ये रहा है, ज्यादातर लोग एक एक्सट्रीमिस्ट नजरिए से देख रहे हैं, और उस एक्सट्रीमिस्ट नजरिए के रिगार्डिंग सामने वाला कोई दूसरा पॉइंट मारता है उसको रिफ्लेक्ट करते हुए, इनवैलिडेट करते हुए. तो ये एक कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी नोशंस की जेंडर वॉर तो बनी रखी है और एक हौच पौच बन रखा है. तो नो वन इज ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड बिकॉज दे कैन नॉट अंडरस्टैंड, and if someone is trying to understand, there are others who contradict and invalidate their perspectives at all. So as if nothing even makes sense. Common female narrative, feminist narrative ये आता है कि females are oppressed and they need this extra protection and they need to dominate this kind of cultural atmosphere by these laws because there is relentless injustice regarding them as they perceive, and similarly there is a male rights community that is pushing forth regarding all of those issues that are on the background, and they too are unheard. The thing is, people at least hear about females issues, people at least give concern, empathy and sympathy to females, but regarding male issues there is a strong cultural stigma. There is a perception that men are always the perpetrators, and there is strong cultural stigma that only female can be a victim, not men. A lot of things are there, so let's break them down one by one. Today we will go through three main points that I have laid down in my presentation tonight, and we will go them one by one, and if we would have time we would discuss on other matters also. First of all, we will talk about this present state of affairs regarding the Atul Subhash case. Everyone know about his background and what happens when he suicided and everything. What is the current situation of this case? It is undergoing active investigation. The Bangalore police are actively investigating the case, focusing on the allegation of the suicide against Nikita Singhania, his wife, and her family. So, dispatch of police team to Jaunpur to notice Nikita Singhania underscores the seriousness of this investigation. So it has gained the limelight. There are still hundreds or thousands of similar cases that are going on, and I hope they also come to light after this inflaming of awareness regarding males' rights. There are charges filed of abetment to suicide and other related sections of BINS has been registered against multiple individuals. So there is focus on evidence gathering that is happening. Judicial corruption allegation, that was very serious allegation regarding the judge, while no FIR has been filed. The main thing is that why is the judiciary deflecting the accountability and even investigation regarding that thing? They can at least accuse the judge and then see and investigate on that. Why are they hiding the inherent flaws in their system? It comes to that. It is a serious issue that why is there neglect of responsibility by the whole system itself? Do they not want to remove the corruption, or they are scared of the strength of corruption that is underlying this judge and the whole judiciary system? It is important thing to consider. So judiciary is facing immense scrutiny due to allegations of corruption and broader context and misuse of the Section 498A and other laws. 9 cases were filed against him. So there is also a ongoing public interest PIL that has been lodged in Supreme Court seeking reforms in domestic violence laws that reflect the judiciary's acknowledgement of the potential systemic flaws. There had been severe and several movements that were again and again silenced by the traditional media, by the politicians, and the general narrative, as if male rights do not exist and male do not deserve rights. But at least now they have begun to move an eye towards these strong and intense situations that are underlying our society, and that implicitly if affects each and every person on the planet. So the internal investigation into the conduct of accused judge has been begun, independent of the police investigation. So police are tasked with conducting a fair and impartial investigation after this case has become a high profile case, while navigating the sensitive nature of the case and the high public interest. So there are potential challenges gathering evidence in cases involving the digital communication and financial transaction, as Tul also predicted how judge would be tampering the evidences, and they are still not lodging an FIR against the judge, and she may have tampered evidences and reframed the narrative in her favor at this time, and a lot of time has already been passed after that. From the political sphere, there has been no acknowledgement, no significant political commentary by any politician, by a prime minister, president. No one acknowledged that. There is no sensitivity towards this, and not even celebrities, not even any kind of people, because there is a strong stigma. There is strong stigma that if they will push forth the narratives regarding male rights, they will be antagonizing female rights, and they will be labeled anti-woman, they would be labeled anti-feminist. It is a very strong fear. It is a very powerful effect of the cancel culture जो कि चल रहा है बहुत बुरा हाल है. So there is potential for politicization. The case could become politicized, particularly if it gains further traction in public discourse. This could lead to calls for legislative reform or intervention from political parties. I hope that happens, that political parties take acknowledgement of this thing, as there are continuous policies and agendas regarding a National Commission for Women, and there are constant fundings and policies regarding Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, and similar fundings. But there is nothing for men. There is no acknowledgement for suicide rates and everything, and all the data is outdated. There is only data collected on the female suffering and everything, and that too has been shown very much exaggeratingly. And any data regarding male sufferings has not been considered a data, because males are only perpetrators. They can never be victims. The whole law is framed as per that. So it is a serious problem regarding the systemic imbalance and the cultural narrative. The media is amplifying the public discourse, because media has known that it has taken the public interest, and the more they show it, the more they will be getting the TRP and everything. But also, there have been certain media houses that has been diligently showing that I have seen. For example, Aaj Tak, News 24, I could see the way they were showing it was carrying sentiment, and they really wanted to show this expression regarding them. But I believe they must have been in the fear of being labeled anti-woman too. That is again a very strong stigma that underlies everyone. There is a responsibility for balanced reporting. The media has responsibility to report the facts accurately to avoid sensationalism. And the focus should be on the investigation's progress and the broader issues raised by the case, which is hardly the case, as I have seen various debates that have been ongoing regarding this by the media houses, and they are consciously pushing for the panel of feminists, and they are actively dissenting and actively negating sensitivity towards male rights by pushing all of that Atul has faced as nonsense. I have seen some of those shows too, and it is sad to see how much unempathy is there, how much there is insensitivity towards such a person who has been harassed, tortured, and died in vain and pain. Social media is a platform for advocacy, with many users expressing support for Atul Subhash and demanding justice. There is also a potential for misinformation. So the rapid spread of information on social media can also lead to dissemination of misinformation or unverified claim that has been happening. And that has been happening a lot in the echo chambers of Reddit, especially, that I have seen a lot of Reddit posts. And Reddit allows users to have anonymity, and they can choose any of the username and they can express their views and thoughts without any issues. But there has been strong backlash and strong misinformation regarding this. All of the feminists were saying, like, I had some sympathy for him before, but now I won't give a shit about him, and he is that misogynistic piece of shit and everything. So they were just finding an excuse to invalidate the pain and the death of a man, to just reinforce their own narrative and mindset regarding this female victimization. They are still a lot of women are still totally insensitive, and they are actively negating the importance of this thing. They are becoming defensive, even if this thing is just acknowledging, empathy regarding and being sensitive towards a man's pain. Just simple as that, just a basic human right, just a basic decency, basic human civil conduct. But most of women, especially this in this generation of entitled narcissism and this overinflation of value by feminism, they do not want to agree. They are in another Reddit post. I saw a guy was asking that, why are you doing like this? Like, he has suffered so much and everything. He posted all of those things that Atul suffered, and they were telling that you don't give a shit when a girl got raped and everything, and when he guy dies, and you are saying like this and this. So they are rationalizing, their insensitivity, and they just want to continue the man-hating behavior, and they are normalizing it because media has normalized it. If we see now all the daily soap that we see, all the Bollywood movies that we see, they celebrate smashing the patriarchy. They celebrate moving against the any kind of norm that are created by men, as if everything is anti-men inherently. They want to destroy anything that is male-related. I wonder how a world can go without a man. How will the civilization continue? How will the population increase? Simple as that. I don't understand. It is a strong cultural shadow that they believe that they can exist without man, and the world can go on without their existence, and they could enslave man in a way if things go to extremes. This is the ideology that Smash the Patriarchy concludes. So there is not significant celebrity involvement, and even if there has been not any kind of logical or sensible celebrity involvement. Kangana Ranaut, as usual, spewing bullshit, and I had not seen any major celebrity speaking about it. On definitely from the fear of being cancelled and labeled anti-woman, the very strong cultural stigma. So there is key issues and implications. There is misuse of laws that are key issues here. Mental health. There has been a strong neglect of mental health regarding men. Men are considered the stoic providers, that they do not need to have emotions. Their emotions are not acknowledged by society, and if they express their emotions, they are always deemed weak, and they are often called a man up, don't be a pussy kind of things. So a lot of things. So there is a strong competition among men itself, among the community of men regarding this dog eat dog world and survival thing that women do not have in their world. Women can exist peacefully within their world because they don't have to go out commonly and work and do things. men have to do. Men have to compete with each other, not only for work, but also for the potential partners. Women do not have all of these competition. It is the reason they have support from not only their own community, but also from men themselves. And men, what do they have? They have nothing to support. So in these times, there is a rise of men's rights communities, but they too are only focused on men who are stuck in false cases and everything. There is still no community that talks about men's mental health and that actively embraces the sensitive and emotional sides of men. And the whole culture is keen on actively suppressing the emotionality and vulnerability of men as if it should not exist, as if the transcending and moving beyond the roles, traditional roles, were only the rights of women, and that men are forever to be stuck in their traditional stereotypical roles. It is a strong, strong issue that is still underlying. So there is judicial integrity, the allegation of judicial corruption, if substantiated, would severely damage public trust. That would happen, that is happening, and there are a lot of men that are turning on to the idea of having a very shattered worldview after this thing. Some of the people who just barely know about this injustice regarding men, and they got to know about this thing, they are traumatized. They are scared of going out. They are scared to interact with women. They are scared to do marriage. And if this continues to extremes, the whole government, the whole country, the population, everything will collapse soon enough. So it is one possible scenario.
I think in men's rights for mental health issues, I think there is something in West and there is nothing in East, I think. So in West, there is good for men or good to be men or something like that. That was done by the creator of Voice of Men.
Okay.
In East,
Nice.
I don't think so there is anything for men's mental health.
Mm-hmm. There is a strong stereotypes in East side. That is the main issue because there is a simultaneous need for being traditional and conservative and also modern and liberal. So this, swinging both sides is only allowed to women because they are the privileged gender and they are the celebrated gender and they can be anything and they can also be the victim, and it is not applicable to men. Men have to be the provider. Men have to survive. Men have to earn. Men have to do the work. Men have to run the infrastructure. Men has to be responsible for the society, for the family, for himself, and this is the burden that man has to face. So women has their own burdens. I'm not negating that, but it is the reality for men. So there is potential future scenarios that judicial and inquiry and reforms, if allegations against a judge are to be found credible, it could lead to high-level judicial inquiry and potential reforms to address corruption within the judiciary. This is a strong resistance that judiciary will not want to remove corruption from itself. If the corruption will remove thousands, lakhs of people whose bellies are getting feeded by this corruption will not have any means to live that high standard life. That is the reason why corruption is still persistent at this large scale in India, and it is so much normalized at this level in India. So that would be a very big friction, and it is the reason that this system want to persist in its corruption, and it is the reason why there is still no FIR lodged against the judge, because this system want to retain its corruption. There is public outcry and social movement, and this thing would only build momentum now, as I am seeing, and men's rights and everything, because this thing has come to light. And men don't want to, go to darkness again. It is a deep, pain that they have been suffering in silence. And it was, it was not the cowardice of Atul Subhash, I would say. I would say it is the courage of Atul Subhash that he had done this thing in unconventional moral way. It is unethical. It is not good to suicide. It is a very bad thing. It can be deemed cowardice. But I have done the psychological analysis of Atul, and if I would get viewer response, I would delve deep into that definitely. So tell me in the comments, or just let me know about that if you want a deep psychological analysis regarding that. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, because this depth I don't believe that anyone would be covering this scenario and the whole socio-cultural issue in this depth. So this would help you and everyone. The cases from the public memory. If the investigation does not yield substantial result or if media loses interest, so this is the scenario 4. The case could fade for public memory without significant long-term impact. And all the men rights activists and all the people who are active ongoing cases and all of those youth, that is actively seeking out justice, that everything, this momentum shall collapse and everything shall turn to dust if there is this ongoing resistance or passes this will of change from this common people. If that happens, everything will collapse. So let's see how this trajectory goes. And I hope that there will be strong cultural and social and societal reforms within our systems. So let's move on to the next aspect, that is how rigid the legal and judicial system is. So we will talk about this thing and then we will talk about socio-cultural political, situations within the gender dynamics. That covers the cultural. हमारे समाज में क्या मानसिकता है, क्या धारणाएं चल रही हैं, क्या ideology है feminism की. We will cover that next. And now we will cover what is legal and judicial aspect, how rigid the corruption is, and what are these rules that are biased and laws that are biased and everything. So before that, I would like DB to have some comments and reflections. What do you say, DB?
Even before this, there was, I think, a case, the Rohtak sister case, where the two sisters beat a man for a seat in the bus. And those two sisters were given bravery award. And the police investigated that case. And after many months, it was found out that the two sisters were in the wrong and they were trying to steal the seat by force. There was one more case. I think it was a Punjabi man. I'm forgetting the name. He fought for many years. He ran from pillar to post telling his story, but no one remembers him. So I hope this is not the case for Atul Subhash.
Bilkul.
Let's see what happens.
People like getting drunk on the idea that woman is empowered, that woman smashed the patriarchy. People like this narrative. People like this story. People like, get drunk on this ideology that women can do anything. And because there is this deep high that women get because men are always considered this physically strong gender and this woman is considered always the physically weak gender. And if any woman dominate a man, the whole culture celebrates as if she has won a war. Koi kile fateh kar diya. That is the thing.
Even they are seen as protectors, the providers, the angels.
Exactly.
Can do no wrong.
That identity of man totally robbed of them, that they are protectors, they are providers. But what is left? They are predators, they are perpetrators, they are villains, they are rapists. Only that identity remains at this time on our country and also on our planet wide. This is persistent. Also in the West, this thing is severe. This regarding this family laws and bias against men and everything. This is a result of whole DEI movement. I also have reports and research papers that I have developed regarding this. And if I get a good response from this video, I would make another videos on that, definitely. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, let's hope for the best. And also,
Indeed.
I think the judiciary and the police must be seen that they take so long for a single case. If it's a normal man. Like
they take so long so that they could manipulate the results. So there is a very reasons for that. They want to manipulate results, and also the longer the case delays, the more it would be fade from the people's memory because people have very short memory span. So this is why
Also
they extend these cases because so that those who are participating in the case will suffer, and any other people they don't want to engage themselves in that very long lasting case, and thus the judiciary and that person's those people who are in the courtroom, only those they can it is like a prison for them. It has become like a prison for them that no one can save them from that.
Make the process the punishment.
Seriously, it is that thing. So this whole system is corrupted, and it is the reason because everyone in this rigid judiciary system wants to earn bucks. It's like they find any vulnerable, they get into pray that thing like hyenas. There is this lawyers, there is this all police, and there is this judge and everything. Whole system is stinking and rotten with corruption, and it has become normalized.
Even in Deepika Ji's YouTube channel, I think she had told one case where a family in 498 AK went to the police and they went by themselves. No lawyer was there. So what the police did was ask for money. had
Mm-hmm.
tied the hands of the husband,
Mm-hmm.
and he was made to sit down with his feet up. You can imagine how it was. His
Yeah.
hands were tied to the chair, and he was beaten over there. And once the lawyer
Horrendous.
was with him, everything was fixed.
Horrendous.
Money was given, everything was fixed.
So this is the way because they know that police receives training on to be sensitive for women. So they receive training that they have to listen to any case that a woman comes to them, but they do not receive any training for a man. That if a man comes to you for any cases, you should file them with urgency because our law does not recognize it. It is a fault, complex systemic flaw. You can blame police, you can blame judiciary, but this law is crooked. This law is made by those orthodox, this traditional mindset people who just want to celebrate this fantasy of female empowerment. That's all. And those laws were created in a reactive way. So these laws, when they were changed after Nirbhaya and every this female empowerment thing that has been done, it was not done thoughtfully. It was done because of the global pressure, because India loves to impress, globally others that
Yeah.
they are female supportive, that they have the best infrastructure, that they are a developing country. And in that thing, anything they done, Indians do not have, a priority of cultural development, and they do not have the priority regarding, common man. The only priority is their economic development and whatever they see, that helps them show off to the world, technology and anything, infrastructure. But it comes, the least priority that they have concern from a common man. And it is the reason any laws have been changed. They took a very long time. And if they change, then it disrupts the system because these are reactive changes. When Nirbhaya case came, it was a reactive change towards that situation so that they won't have to take the blame or, criticize for what had the condition of India. And to do that, they made the change. They were not thoughtful. They were blindless, reactive, and trauma response to that situation. It is one perspective. Laws. So let's read them one by one so that others
Okay.
can know what laws that are misused. So there is 498A section. So this section was enacted in 1983 to protect married women from cruelty by their husband-in-laws. This defines cruelty very broadly, so encompassing physical, mental, financial abuse to provide immediate relief to women facing harassment and to deter such behavior by imposing legal consequences. For punishment on this, the accused can face imprisonment of up to 3 years and are subjected to fines. There is legal implications, the laws for arrest without a warrant. Without a warrant is a big thing, which can lead to immediate detention of the accused. First, one thing that this is has a very broad categorization. Another thing that it can arrest without a warrant. So there is nothing that is left for men. And for the similar thing, I believe men have nothing to protect themselves from physical, mental, or financial abuse, as if men do not suffer physical, mental, or financial abuse. So there is legal implications. The laws allows for arrest. Then this provision has raised concern for potential misuse, and it was required because it was introduced in response to the widespread domestic violence and societal norms that often left women vulnerable in abusive marriages. True. It serves as a crucial legal tool for empowering women and providing them with the means to seek justice. True. So the thing is, here we are talking about all of the things that we are covering. We are not covering it in a way that it is either or it is or. So there is only single perspective that is true, that all men are right, or I am saying that, not saying that only females are true, that only their sides are right. I am taking an integral perspective, as I have told in the beginning of the show, in that there is a norm that there exist partial truths in everything, every situation, and every being. So what we are taking partial truths from everything, and we are putting them together to make a big picture that could make us understand what is happening actually. So what are the instances of misuse here? So the Supreme Court has noted a significant rise in false cases filed under this section, where it is used as a weapon against husband and families. Common instances include personal vendettas, very common for personal vendettas. Women may file complaints to exert pressure during divorce proceedings to settle personal scores. Vague allegations, generalized claims, because it is a very broad categorization, can lead to undue harassment of innocent parties, including relatives, who may not have any direct involvement in the alleged cruelty. There is also, so one thing to notice is that there is also lawyers that promote, even if a woman is not that minded, and if she reach a lawyer that is clever and cunning, that lawyer will instigate her to file cases, false cases, to make her case strong. So I will also capture that in later in this systemic issues. So let's continue. So Domestic Violence Act, this protection from domestic women from domestic violence, it was enacted to provide protection against domestic violence and ensure women's right to reside in a shared household. Indeed, very important. It recognizes various forms of abuse beyond physical violence, including emotional and economic. Indeed, very important. But what about the abuse of men? Does it not exist? Physical violence, emotional and economic abuse. Do men do not have the right to be a victim of abuse, like these abuse? And the law says, like, okay, so man is not the privileged born gender, so these are only applied to the woman, the one who is entitled to be empowered. A strong bias. There are implications and punishments. So legal protections. The Act allows women to seek protection orders, residence orders, and monetary relief. Court can direct perpetrators to vacate shared household or pay compensation for damage caused by domestic violence. So while specific penalties are not detailed within the Act, violations of protection orders can lead to criminal charges. So it was required because the pervasive issue of domestic violence in India, I agree, it had been a strong issue, as and women being the physically weak gender do need legal protection, which affects women across all socioeconomic background. It aims to create a legal framework that empowers women to seek protection from abusive relationships. Yes, very good. So women are getting empowered by legal policies, by NGOs, and now also Kejriwal is pushing a policy to give around 2100 or something to women every month around above the age of 18. Women are getting empowered again and again, more and more. I have no issue with that. I would love to get them empowered, but I would also love to have a balance in empowerment, so that there is not marginalization of a single gender that is actively seen, marginalization of single gender, and it is discrimination. It is a form of jativad. It is a form of casteism kind of thing, in a different sense. To cure one thing, do you have create another problem? It is what this system is doing. So let's move on. So there is instances of misuse. It often arises when the act is invoked during divorce or custody disputes. Allegations may be exaggerated or fabricated to gain leverage in legal battles. Very common. These allegations are always often exaggerated and fabricated to get leverage in legal battles, because it is a zero-sum game. It is like either one party wins or another. It's like they are in a battle. So this whole system, I believe, of this legal proceeding is crooked. There is not a kind of justice that is balanced. There comes, this also comes to question of, questioning, is our legal system actually efficient? Is the zero-sum game the only way to win and move forward, and the only way to promote, societal harmony? It is a thing to ponder. The broad definitions within the Act can sometimes lead to false accusation that complicate family dispute. Domestic Violence Act, broad definitions, false allegations. So all the things, females have the leverage that they can have. And in the recent surveys, international surveys that I will talk about, that I have seen those data. What was that in that? There were serious data that have shown that men suffer domestic violence far more than women, and there is no legal recourse for them. And India, there is no recognition for that. Even in the West, these cases are not considered seriously. Johnny Depp, if you remember Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, Johnny Depp has to fight for so long just to get his justice regarding this harassment and violence. India is far, far beyond, as much as Indians like to show off their pride of, being Deshbhakt and everything. It is of no use if this country cannot serve you justice. I have covered some cases. So, DB, if you have some reflection on that, I would love to hear from you.
All these laws which we have discussed here, all were the reactionary laws. That's why they
Indeed.
are so broad definitions.
Yeah.
Because to write a precise definition, you have to start from the ground. You have to look at various data, and even the data is not considered. Data is not taken.
There is no
The
data. There
suicide
is no
rates of
demographic.
men. Yeah, no demographic of that. Why the suicide happens? What are the issues of men or even the women? they were not taken during the forming of these laws.
The only research that cultural research and demographics they do is when anything comes to light, is when anything becomes a high profile case. It is only when only regarding that thing there is only cultural research, demographic research, and everything. Or if there is anything that will provide funding to those political systems, then they will do, because National Commission from Women, they have crores of budget, crores. And I don't think all of that budget will go into female empowerment. There are a lot of people involved in this process, and a lot of them will be entrenched in this corruption and filling up their bellies with that money. No one knows. There is no transparency within this, how this money goes over and how, this they receive a lot of funding and there is nothing for men. So they have been so much sidetracked, and female politically they have got so much advantage that if anything they can manipulate media, they can manipulate social media, they can run campaigns, total campaigns, because they have crores of budget. NGOs receive crores of corporate funds, they receive crores of funds from other peoples regarding female empowerment and everything. There is nothing regarding men are not even considered human in terms of to be able to give fund for, to be able to be sensitive and sympathized for, because there is total stigma regarding that. It will label you anti-woman. If you won't support women, you are against women. So there is either you are in or you are out. This is polarizations, very strong polarizations that we have culturally.
Yeah, as soon as you talk about the men's commission, patriarchy.
Yeah, exactly. So there are very strong
That's their
polarization.
catch-all.
So I have also, have this cultural section that we have after the systemic, and it also have it, very detailed how it has all of that. So we shall discuss that there. Okay, let's discuss this Dowry Prohibition Act. The Dowry Prohibition Act aims to eliminate the practice of dowry by prohibiting the giving or receiving of dowry in connection with marriage. It seeks to protect women from financial exploitation and harassment related to dowry demand. Very important, as related to thousands and hundreds of thousands of dowry debts. It is seriously important. Why it is only one-sided? Why it is regarding it is called like giving or taking dowry. But when it comes to that, I have heard several instances where a man complained the police that they are trying to give me dowry, and the police laughed it out like, "What are you talking about? Go away. It does not make sense. We won't file this." Yeah, like that. They are making a mockery out of that. And if the girl complains that they have pushing me for dowry, they won't hear a thing. This act is they act serious without any investigation upon these things. It is several serious disadvantage, and only men are considered villain in each and every legal circumstance. Very, very sad, very, very biased, and very, very shameful. And I feel very injustice, by understanding, realizing all of this. So there is punishment can for a minimum of 5 years along with fines, applies to both givers and receivers of dowry, but it only applies to receivers of dowry. So there is, this law is there. But it is a thing of ethics. Our culture still is complicated, quagmire regarding this, their stance regarding dowry. So our culture still have their complex sentiment regarding dowry, and some people think that it is good, some people think that it is not good, and there are repeated instances where a woman who is not getting married, a woman who has gone of age above 30, above 35, the parents fill the bellies of the guy side a lot to get their daughter married. Just don't get the daughter married. They know that if they pay dowry, they would get their daughter married. It is the reason they fill their bellies. And it is a sentiment from the girl side also. It is not that only boys take dowry. It is a sentiment from the girl side also, because they want to get their daughter married. They want to get her settled. So it is a complex, but why only men are getting punished? So it is a complex systemic issue that the police system, legal system is not addressing it accurately at systemic level. So it was introduced in response to societal pressures surrounding dowry practices that led to violence against men, serious violence. I have heard, I have understood, and I empathize with that. but there need to be cultural empathy against the other side too. So similar to Section 498A, this law is often always misused by women who file false complaints against the husband and in-laws regarding dowry demand. In the case of Atul, there were no evidences regarding if he has taken dowry. Otherwise, he had this evidence that he had given his brother-in-law 10 lakhs. That wasn't considered, and that is still not being considered by the feminist narrative. They are pushing for that he was a misogynist who was, calling bad about women. That point, they hold on, cherry pick narratives, and desensitize themselves of any possible empathy, and they spreading hate, man-hating misandry, common charm for female empowerment in this era. Maintenance laws under Section 125. Interesting. Section 125 CRPC provides a legal remedy for the neglected wives, children, and parents who cannot maintain themselves. It ensures that those who are financially dependent on another party receives adequate support. Wives, children, and parents. I think that I am missing someone, who should be there. A specific identity who runs this country, who runs this infrastructure, who is the provider and the protector of this whole realm, running lives. If I am seeing a serious insensitivity in this law here, there is neglect for men, but not for wives, children, and parents. Okay. There is implications and punishments. Court can order husbands to provide monthly maintenance payments based on their financial capacity. The amount is determined after considering the needs of wife and children. The needs of wife and children. It becomes more and more complex based on their financial capacity. So Atul's financial capacity was his financial capacity 3 crores rupees. Why was this case, regarding him entertained for so long? And why was, he harassed like this for such a long time for, 2 years and that thing. I won't argue on his logistics and how he was going up and down regarding everything and his mental state and everything, that we can cover it later. But why was he arrested? The thing is that did her wife really needed this thing? There is also a minimum wage thing that is there in India, that he has also mentioned in his letter, that per capita income is 15,000 rupees per month. Why is there a demand of 80,000 rupees per month from his wife as maintenance and 3 crore rupees as alimony? Males, are they only born to provide, pay bills, and die? Is that the only identity that males have been given and confined and restricted into? Is that the only, Fasi ka fanda that they are entitled to, and women are entitled to the empowerment? It is a serious question to ponder. Failure to comply with maintenance orders can lead to further legal action against the husband. So this maintenance is more and more complicated. There is also interim maintenance as long as the court session goes, and there is, so let's read why it was required. So this provision address economic disparities within families, so ensuring that vulnerable individuals are not left destitute after separating or divorce. Okay, so they need to survive or they need to flourish, because maintenance means basic living standard. Basic living standard, the 3 crore rupees and 80,000 rupees per month concludes a basic living standard. There are a lot of people who are earning, a lot less, So I think that if this law could be made till the, per capita income, or based on how the woman, is actively living her life, as she was also doing a job at Accenture. She was very well off, very well off. I don't understand the reason why there is neglect for that. If a man is jobless and her wife is earning and they're divorced, why is a man suffered like this? Why is a man tormented by this whole system like this? Does his identity have no meaning? Or he just born to be like tortured? Just this identity, just just question everyone, like, why are you born like this man's body? Is it a sin to be a man? Just question that, just for the whole culture. So there are cases where maintenance claims are inflated or pursued despite the wife's financial independence. So they are inflated and pursued despite the wife's financial independence. That happened with Atul, definitely. The misuse can result in prolonged legal disputes and financial strain or husband who may be unjustly burdened with support obligations. That happened on Atul. So he was unjustly burden, with support obligations. So one thing that comes into light is that there are also biased judges, and the judge Rita Kaushik was definitely a strong feminist, and she also was definitely a man-hating. He also was definitely predatory in the way she see Atul as a vulnerable prey, and she was, being hunting him down. She harassed him. She laughed on the thought of him suiciding. Like, I don't care. You just go die of suicide. Just pay my 5 lakhs that I am asking for. Pay her money, and we will get. Her wife Nikita will get money. She will give me money. I know that. Just pay up, man. You are born to do that. So it is the thing. That is how system treats men. A sad reality. So then there is new section 69 of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, a very not celebrated law, specifically by male rights activists, and they actively protested it a lot, and still the parliament pushed it, relentlessly in the name of being a country that is female empowering. I don't understand if you empower female and you just rig your whole system up and it won't work anymore. What is the reason of showing off like this? So there is one thing that I will address later on also, that Indian have strong identity issues. The Indians want to prove themselves to the West and the world that they are something. It is the reason they do stupid things without thinking for the long term implications. It is the reason these laws were made like this. It is the reason the Indians are so, Indians political system and social economic system, they are so hooked on to this fantasy of being, a female empowering, country, just because it will gain them, numbers from this DI movements and, this kind of, as if they will clap, oh, wow, India female empowering. And those men who are suffering inside of your country, your own people who are feeding you taxes, they go to hell, right? It seems like that. Do you have to say, reflect on all of what we have talked about?
Dowry laws, I think they were correct at the time. I think it was in 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So there were many like burning things, killings, and all things going due to dowry, and it was reflected in the media, in movies, everywhere, and this law was made. But again, it should have been gender neutral law.
Exactly.
It is not a gender neutral law.
Mm.
And the other law, which was Domestic Violence Act, again, this one was also a reactionary one, not really thought of too much. And the DV 498A and this new BNS 69 are the three main laws which are used as a revenge against men.
Exactly. Weaponized legal terrorism, it has been termed by a lot of journalists and literature artists.
If anyone, even for a small thing, a woman, if she is not literate enough, even though she goes to the lawyer gives examples of this law that we can use it against the man, and we can extort him. And the lawyer also has his own benefit in that, because he will get money from the man.
They will not get money from the girl. They will still extort money from the guy. Guy pays, money to the girl. Guy pays all legal money of the girl also. The kind of burden man has to face, it is the kind of thing that all the men in the India around the world should feel sorrow, a deep sorrow within their heart for. They should feel that, is this humanity? Is this even humanity? It is not about male rights or female. It is about human rights. It is about civil rights, basic survival, not torturing anyone. If it is not slavery, then what is it? It is the modern slavery and definition of this revamped slavery. Just the way this feminism is the rebranded sexism, as many people call it.
Even we are not asking for the removal of laws. We are asking gender neutral laws. Because we know there are many incidents that happen.
We are sensitive. We are empathetic. We are rational. But feminists, they only give reactionary responses to anything, but logical. Just reactionary. Just kind of thing. Just they make them woo together, in unity, as if they are fighting an endless war against men, that they don't want to let go of this, this female warrior kind of thing. So
yeah, and there is one thing in domestic violence law in UK. It is same as it is in India, and there was a woman who made a domestic shelter for the women who were in the domestic violence home. So she made she used to talk to them. They used to work together. They did many healing things, and she also asked them if the men had put their hands on them. So they also been the first one to put their hands on me.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the women which were in that domestic shelter had raised their hand and said that we were most of the time we were the ones who were the first ones to raise our hand.
Oh,
Yes, this
yeah.
was the thing
Mm.
that came out, and the
Yeah.
woman that made the domestic shelter, she was ousted from the feminist movement.
Oh,
Yeah,
seriously. So it is like, everyone celebrates, if a woman beats up a man, if you now also if you see a girl slapping a man in public, everyone like, wow, she's empowered. Like the guy must have done something wrong. Because men's are the villain, men's are the perverts, men's are, dirty. Always this stigma around men. So why, this is why, more and more guys are not willing to talk to a woman nowadays in the open also. There is also this posh in this corporate where men are alienating from themselves from this woman, and then there is this decreasing number of marriage rates that will continue to rise up, especially after this case.
yeah. In Japan, I think Japan, and even
Hmm.
now in various Western countries,
Korea
there is
also.
a literally low marriage rate.
Korea, it is declining, and I have been hearing a lot of women crying out for, like, they are not finding any man because they were being that entitled woman who deserve it all and kind of thing. And now they are, just around the age of 35, 37, and they are marriageless, and they are crying that why I was drunk on this feminist ideology. So they regret it. So a lot of instances in the West also, it is they are waking up from this false dream that feminists showed the woman into engaging themselves in a meaningless war. And I think this will happen in India because Indians love to copy things, but forget that there is repercussions and consequences to them. Let's move on. So there is section 69 of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. So it addresses the sexual intercourse obtained through deceitful means, especially when a promise of marriage is made without an intention to fulfill. So this section criminalizes act where individuals exploit trust by making false promises to engage in sexual relations. It recognized that such deceit can cause significant emotional and psychological harm to victims, particularly when they believe they entered a committed relationship. So, significant emotional and psychological harm to victims. So, now they are talking about significant emotional and psychological harm. Wow, like seriously, the legal system is wonderfully sensitive, becoming sensitive to emotions and psychological states. That is a seriously good thing because it was not before. It was only like, monetary protection, survival protection, and other thing. Okay, but I think that I'm missing something that it should be there. That it is only protect women. The
Yeah,
victims are only women.
yeah. Even there is
So,
one more issue in here. Who will confirm it? It's the word of the man against the word of a
oh
woman.
yes, seriously.
What kind
So
of emotional harm can be given, and how can it be
burden
checked?
of proof. There is no proof regarding this. What khichdi they have made, like serious khichdi. Everything reactive making of laws without any. So, so the one thing is like how do laws are made and what is the involvement of people in it? Because as I am seeing these, political judiciary and lawmaking, bodies are operating on their own, like so much on their own that they do not care about people anymore. So they do not care about people anymore. And this is the reason there is no public involvement. And if there is any involvement, there is only, this kind of, ruckus. So there is no any reports that are made that include all, gender demographics, societal situations and equations and everything, and then creates a logical correlation that this is the reason why these or laws are made. There is and no any legal report or research paper that has been published by our government that should be there regarding making any laws. They are playing a game. It is like it is a game of chess, and they are moving like they are playing like it won't happen. It is overboard. So the one thing is also the ego. In those governmental bodies because they don't think that they are serving this common man. These are serving people. They think that they are there for their own benefit, own profit. Anyone who enters into politics, they don't feel this responsibility regarding this, samaj or anything. They just feel like भाई अब बन गए हैं कुछ, अब अपना लाइफ बदल जाएगी, अब हम एक बंगले में रहेंगे, स्कॉर्पियो फॉर्च्यूनर में घूमेंगे, ये होगा वो होगा। तो दिस इज हाउ दिस करप्शन इज देयर, देयर इज नो responsibility, no accountability towards the politicians and these regulatory bodies, those lawmaking bodies, so far away from these common people, not involved in the process at all. Very much disparity, systemic. So there is this thing. There is imprisonment, can face imprisonment up to 10 years for having emotional and psychological harm. So emotional and psychological harm, there is 10 years, and there are also some other laws where there is even violence, physical violence, and that is also not 10 years. It does not make any rational or logical sense. Like 10 years for just psychological and emotional harm does not make any sense. So there is can be other relational dynamics in that. There can be other things in that. 10 years is absurd. There is fines. There is non-bailable offense. Non-bailable offense means, first of all, there is no proof. No, it cannot be proven. First of all, a verdict of a woman is the word of law here. And then there is non-bailable offense. It is a disaster. It is a disaster for men. Like how would you, if there's mothers and sisters, any, wives are listening to this, and if anyone implicates anyone, it is a disaster, for your relative. It is not about a male-female gender war anymore. It is about, those who are living aside you, beside you. They are going to be in prison for 10 years, and they are going to subject to fine. Or most of the people believe that the whole system is corrupted or rigged up, and if this law comes up, they will just throw money up and they will settle things up. It is that, because people believe that, oh, the law is came, we cannot do anything, so just we will just settle it anyways. So if in any case any false implications happens, this is the reason there is no strong backlash from this culture side, because they so strongly believe in this idea of corruption, so persistent in our society. And they have this inertia that, okay, it is normal, yeah, it is corruption, it is everywhere. What can we do? We cannot do anything. We can just accept it as it is, and we can just bother with our lives. It is one of the drastic, inertia, drastic frictions that is preventing cultural shift towards, harmony, our collective harmony. Because if your brother, your husband, and your father, enters any false implications, you will also suffer. It is not about man versus woman, as polarized feminist perspectives offers. It is not like that. Wake up. This law protects individual from being misled into sexual relationships under the false pretenses. There is also men who are sexually implicated. There is also men who are raped. There is no remedy for men. Men can go into anything and he can come out because he is Folad ki aulad. What do you think a man is? He is shaheed, get shaheed for your country, shaheed for his family and everything. शहीदी का तोहफा मर्द का ये जन्म है क्या? बेटी को पहले बोला जाता था कि वो पराया धन है। अब मर्द को बोला जाना चाहिए कि वो एक शहीदी का तोहफा है, देश के लिए, दुनिया के लिए शहीद हो सकता है, शहीद होना है उसे, बिकॉज उसका एग्जिस्टेंस का मीनिंग ही नहीं है। दैट इज वन ऑफ द strong identity crisis and cultural narratives, implicit cultural narratives that lies around here, that we need to see and understand that these things are hidden beyond the lines, impacting each and every one of us. So, particularly concerning the promises of marriage, it addresses a gap in existing laws where such deceitful acts were not adequately penalized. There are gaps in laws regarding men, but they are covering gaps in laws regarding women where men were not adequately penalized. So, penalize men because men are villains, men are demons, men are cowards, men are someone to be hated, men are someone to be fought against, because we have to smash the patriarchy. It is the one and only goal. That is why all live for and die for. Very crooked, very trauma informed responses. These all need to be healed at deep cultural, psychological levels, thereby providing legal recourse for victims who may feel betrayed and exploited, who may feel, what about who are experiencing actual trauma and who are experiencing actual harassment, due to these laws, who are men. But who cares? Because, yep, again, that is a man. Critics argue that this law can be misused by women to falsely accuse men of deceit regarding promises of marriage. The burden of proof lies with the accused, raising concerns about fairness in legal proceedings. Instances have been reported where men were falsely implicated in this case, and it has not been long this law has been begun. And yep, there has been a strong wave of cases, false cases, and there also been, courts that reflected that okay, it's been enough, so you cannot file, just case like this. So there is also the section 376 rape law. So it defines rape and outlines several penalties for those convicted. These sections provide a comprehensive definition of what constitutes rapes, including various forms of sexual violence against women. Men cannot be raped, even by men or by women or by any other transgender. So men cannot be raped because men are not considered human. Men are the slaves of the systems. Men are shaheed ka tohfa. It aims to protect women from sexual violence and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable for their actions. It indeed is important, and it indeed has been a strong issue. And if anything happens, everyone knows कि पूरा समाज will cancel that person. Everyone knows कितनी बदनामी होती है उस आदमी की. He won't be able to survive. सर उठा के and everything. पुलिस वाले तो डंडों से पीटते हैं जेल के अंदर, तो उन लोगों को this kind of torture they experience, I cannot even speak because I am shooting a YouTube video here and content video here. Strong cultural पहले punishment culture से मिल रही है उस आदमी को, and law भी punishment दे रहा है उस आदमी को. But what about if a man suffers a similar discourse? So I have heard instances of men who experience similar things. They cannot go to police at all. They have no discourse. They are laughed upon, and they are not even considered human. So it is painful, very painful, and it had been painful. A lot of men who experience and who had experienced these things. There definitely needs to be strong empathy, sympathy, and sensitivity regarding men. And there is life imprisonment. There is minimum sentence is 7 years, and this also includes enhanced penalties for aggravated forms of rape that includes minors or gang rape. So there is a strong deterrent against sexual violence, and it aims to ensure justice for victims. By imposing stringent penalties, it seeks to address the grave issue of sexual assault in society and provide a sense of security for women. And yes, a lot of feminist women do believe that there is this strong patriarchy and this society where men have this ego and everything, and they feel that they can do anything. It is not about patriarchy. It is the inherent nature of a man that he is masculine, that he is dominating. And feminists just want all men to be submissive. They just want all men to just obey them. Implicitly, all men to not be dominating. So you are playing with this deep psychological drives here. You are playing with deep nature drives, natural drives. If you see in nature, there are bulls that fight together to mate with a female. There are, peacocks, that dance, to mate, impress and attract female. That all of those are acts of the transcendence, eros, that upward drive towards the union. This is the drive that is responsible for innovation, that is responsible for all the research that you see all around us, that is responsible for uh, everything infrastructure and innovators and freedom fighters that have fought and died for the country, that's responsible for uh, everything that you're seeing is the an important aspect of how this emerged. The emerge of that innovation, that eros, that masculine drive that also causes domination. This is a side effect of domination and those underdeveloped men, developmentally underdeveloped men. So uh, they want to remove that. They want to hamper the process of evolution of men themselves, the masculine drive. So it is a serious issue. cultural level. So I also want to address this, psychological drive, yin yang, and all of that. Just let me know in the comments if you want to get a deep dive onto that. There have been notable cases where accusations of rape were made without substantial evidence, were motivated by personal vendettas. A lot happens. Such misuse can lead to wrongful imprisonment and irreparably tarnished reputations. High profile cases have highlighted situations where men were acquitted after long trials and after long imprisonment. A lot of men gone to jail for no reasons at all. They spent years and years in jail. A lot of men are still are not served justice. This country is not serving justice, and this is the country you're paying taxes for. This is the country you so proudly named like Bharatiya, Indians and everyone. So it does not make sense. Section 304B, IPC dowry death. So this is another section. It addresses dowry death by presuming that if a woman dies within 7 years of marriage under suspicious circumstances related to dowry demands, which cannot be proven if a woman died and after that anyone can implicate dowry death to their personal vendettas, her husband and in-laws are presumed guilty unless proven otherwise. They are automatically presumed guilty. So if you are a man or if you have any, boy in your family and he would have a family, someday or later. This is the future for men and their families also. So back in the days, they used to, there was this bhroon hatya, this female infanticide. I am scared that this male infanticide would not emerge in this society as these laws are changing and transforming the cultural landscape, like this. It is scary. So it addresses dowry death. So this provision is intended to combat dowry-related death, violence that occur due to harassment over dowry demands. So those convicted under this section can face a minimum sentence of 7 years in prison. This is non-bailable offense, and this provision this complicates the legal issues for those accused until proven innocent. So law, I have often heard that law is like uh, innocent until proven guilty. It is accused until proven innocent. Doesn't make sense. Uh, not at all makes sense. So this law was introduced alarming rates of dowry death, and it aims to provide immediate legal recourse for families affected by large tragedies. And so there are laws. It is important that they have been required, but there is no safeguard regarding their misuse. It is very sad to see that. So critics argue that this provision creates a bias against man by presuming guilt without thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding such deaths. There are concerns about potential misuse where accusations may be made without adequate evidence or context, leading to wrongful implications against husband and their families. This presumption can result in significant social stigma and legal challenges for those accused, often before any substantial evidence is presented. There is Section 323 IPC, punishment for voluntarily causing hurt. This is also misused a lot. This addresses the offense of voluntarily causing hurt. It stipulates that any individual who intentionally inflict body pain or injury can be punished under this provision. So it is a general law. It is to deter individuals from engaging in act of violence that result in physical harm. So this section underscores the significance of personal safety, body integrity, and enforcing social norms against violence. Very, very important. So there is necessity for Section 323 because need to protect individuals from individual harms and face legal consequences. So it provides justice against violence. So this is often used in family disputes because it may file false complaint as a means of retaliation and setting scores. It is non-cognizable. It means you cannot, prove it. It is like I said it and it is the truth. So it is like that. So without immediate police intervention, and if any law is being filed by a woman, it is taken seriously. And if a similar situation happened with men regarding domestic violence, regarding this violence, voluntarily causing hurt, there is no immediate action. Woman is left, even if there is a warrant against woman or something, I've heard that she cannot be picked up with the night. She have to wait, till the day or anything, and she can run away in that time. She can do a lot of things. She have such a big power, privilege, and advantage in all situations. This is the kind of empowerment that women have. It's great. This is the level of empowerment that women has. Amazing. Feminism is winning. Yeah. So there is Section 354A, sexual harassment. Section 354A defines sexual harassment and outlines various forms it takes. including unwelcome physical contact and request for sexual favors. The sections aim to protect individuals, particularly women, from sexual mistreatment, particularly women. Women are the always ones protected. Okay. So implications of Section 354A are significant in promoting women's safety and dignity within the society. It establishes a legal framework to address and penalize acts of sexual harassment, fostering a safer environment in both public and private spaces. There is imprisonment that range up from 1 year to 3 years depending on the severity of the offense. Fines may also be imposed alongside imprisonment. So enactment of 354 is crucial for curbing sexual harassment, which remains a pervasive issue in society. Yes, indeed true. By providing legal recourse for these victims, this section aims to foster a culture where women's rights and dignity are respected. Okay. Does men have right? It's confusing. I don't think they have. So concerns have been raised regarding misuse of Section 354A, where false accusation may arise in personal vendetta and dispute. A very common thing that personal vendetta and disputes, these laws have been used. This has sparked debates about balancing victim from protection with safeguarding against wrongful allegations. So there always have been debates, but no actual policy or reform, legal reform, because they are independent bodies and people do not have any participatory role in that. And there is strong resistance in inertia because this country only focuses on economic infrastructural development more, and common man comes later in the priority, very very later in the priority. Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. Section 377 was enacted in 1861 and it criminalizes carnal intercourse against the order of nature with any man, woman, animal. So it is unnatural, including unsexual, homosexual act, certain heterosexual practices, and it was deemed archaic against LGBT community. So I think it is redundant at this time. So there is Hindu Marriage Act. So one thing I would like to reflect upon the Hindu Marriage Act, like there is this ongoing, very strong polarization between the, in these religion wars between Hindu Muslims and anything else what is happening around. And there are strong political parties, that traditional parties that push forth, these things and everything, that making this country a Hindu country. And there is this strong narrative that, regarding Muslims, that they are, invading this, every country on this, planet and everything. So that is one thing that going on. And regarding this Hindu Marriage Act and debates that I have heard, that one that those people who were saying, like, there are, this party that is ruling party that has been often called the Hindu party, and still they have these laws. That whole Hindu Marriage Act, uh, it is a nightmare for men, and a lot of men, are saying that there is big advantage in changing their religion, if they don't have to face the repercussions of those laws that harasses men just because they are Hindu. I have heard a lot of men saying like that. It is enacted in 1955. It governs marriage among Hindus in India. It aims to provide legal recognition and protection to marriage within the Hindu community while establishing guidelines for marriage ceremonies and marital rights. The HMI recognizes various aspects of marriage, including it outlines various conditions under which marriage can be deemed valid or voidable. So, Act stipulates mutual rights and duties between spouses concerning maintenance, cohabitation, and property. So, ground for divorce, that spouse can seek divorce on all of these reasons: cruelty, desertion, and adultery. Does not prescribe punishment in criminal sense like 377, but it provides legal consequences for divorce if specific conditions are met. Voidable marriage there are, and then there is divorce proceedings. So it is a broad, Hindu Marriage Act, and it was enacted to address complexity surrounding Hindu marriage that is very prehistoric, pre-modern law that is still here in this era where this emerging AI and our society is operating on, three developmental stages behind the ongoing, strata, still not wanting to focus on, cultural development and policy advocacy at this time, very, very developmentally regressing, that they were previously governed by customary law. It aimed to modernize marriage laws. So it is not modernization, I feel, by providing legal protection for women and promoting gender equality. For women, gender equality does not make sense. Gender equality means man and woman. What are you logic between that? Instances between where the HMA may be misused includes false claims. Some women may file false allegations of cruelty or adultery during divorce proceedings to gain leverage in custody or financial settlements. Custody claims a whole topic in itself. Financial settlements, I can talk a lot about that. So So exploitations of maintenance laws, a lot can be talked about that. All of those reasons Atul died for. Hindu Marriage Act, all of those things. DB.
Yeah, all the laws which we have seen until now, what we have is be it the previous government, this government, none of them are making it for the men. Now, how
Hmm.
laws are made are various ministries which we have are
Hmm.
concerned with various departments are concerned. They are gained statistics and they are talked about what should we should do and what we should not do to
Hmm.
add in the laws to subtract it. Now, for men, there is no such thing. There is no men's
Hmm.
commission. For women, there is Ministry
Seriously.
of Men's, Women's and Children's Rights. There is
Hmm.
Women's Commission. So they give the suggestion to make this type of laws. So you were right. Men are now shaheed first for the country, now
Yeah,
for now for courts and the wives.
seriously.
They also like the Section 376, the rape laws. There is a definition of rape which is in the law, which is
Hmm.
called if someone penetrates other person. So the
Hmm.
penetration happens, then the one who is doing the penetration is the one who is committing the rape.
Hmm.
So according to this definition, a female can never be the person who is doing the rape.
So a male organ is be having a male organ is a sin here. Having a
Yeah,
male organ is like we have a weapon of doing
जैसे किसी को
legal.
चाकू घुसा दिया वैसे ही ये डेफिनेशन है.
Seriously, so it is like a man are born with a weapon and the females are born with a thing that is vulnerable and that is always a victim. This law is
Yeah,
instigating culturally that women are victim and men are born with a weapon that they can harm anyone with. What do you think that this culture will make of us men? Because this law has made us of men.
yeah, the definition given in it there is made that men are the perpetrators. They are
Seriously,
guilty party.
it has not been thought through. It was a reactive instrument. Everything it is.
Yeah, even in because all these laws are taken in account in the family courts. That's why
Hmm.
it is always you are guilty until proven innocent. In criminal laws, even if there is something which we know that someone can be guilty, but you should provide proof, substantial evidence, then you are called as a guilty person. That's why it is called as innocent until proven guilty. But family laws do not adhere to this concept. That's why it is guilty until proven innocent, because you just need the suspicion that he has done something.
Seriously, very
Yeah,
one-sided
even
game,
in
very handicap.
354A, Deepika ma'am had even told that there was a
Mm.
uh, Tinder thing, Tinder
Mhm.
Bumble thing,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
when used to match with various women, the
Mhm.
woman used to call the man in a hotel and they
Yeah,
used to
extortion.
then extort them by saying that we will put
Shit.
354A sexual harassment on you. And
Yeah.
even the police were mixed in with this.
Seriously, they were, coordinated crimes, like honey trap coordinated crime.
Yeah, even unnatural sex. Again, the
It is
unnatural
it is
sex.
because there are, loopholes in the laws that they are taking leverage of, and
Yeah, it's not
who are
even the
who are
loophole.
becoming
This is
victim
the
of.
law.
This is the law. This is why this is the reason why men are being victim because of this law, and no one wants to just hear about this because uh, there is this smash the patriarchy. Men are not even considered human. A very very strong cultural stigma.
Yeah, and that's why we need a men's commission over here. So they could
Yes,
at least put
commission.
some input over there.
We need a lot of things. We also need, men support groups. We also need male specific therapies, that allows
Yeah,
them to move beyond their identities because there is strong identity crisis among men and their identity has been confined. There need to be a large scale cultural movement that make men move out of their confines of their identity, that really stoic provider identity, that masculine identity that cannot cry, that identity that only have to provide and serve and everything. So there needs to be a whole therapy on transcending those
yeah,
roles and embracing that feminine side, because what in feminism movement what they have done is that feminist has this feminine side and male has this masculine side. Okay, so in order to move beyond their feminine side and integrating their masculine side within, they had repressed their cultural masculinity to have masculinity within them. So they feel like they do not have masculinity inherent in them, that trait, that drive towards psychological drive. So if I would have another session, that would take another long session to dive on that. So there is psychological masculine drive that is called yin yang in Eastern philosophies also. So they think that if only they can repress men, then they could have that yang. Otherwise, they cannot have that. So this is why they are continuously repressing men so that they can feel that yang within them. And for females, for men are stuck in this, because females have embraced that identity which is masculine, that is empowered, that is strong, that is independent. Female have got this identity from that nurturing, caring identity. They are repressing that identity now. Female are becoming, masculine. Female are becoming dominating. So they are actively repressing their feminine side, and this has been, causing really identity issues and real, cultural instability because men, traditional men, are not used to women who are masculine. And Atul Subhash's wife was masculine in the nature; she was dominating. The one was masculine in the nature; she was harassing and everything. So the eros that was in her, moving towards this financial means and everything, that was a masculine, strong masculine drive that she just wanted to be independent. And but it was pathological masculine drive because healthy masculine drive is protective also, along with moving above and beyond. Just like fathers of many families do, that they protect and they move beyond, to serve and everything. But she was repressing. She repressed that person, Atul Subhash, to the point that he suicided, that he killed that person with harassment, that all of that system. So it is not she killed that. It is not only Rita Kaushik killed that. It is our laws killed that. It is our whole system that killed that. It is not only our system that killed Atul Subhash. It is our samaj, the whole cultural stigma, the narrative, the ideology of feminism that has conditioned all of us into being insensitive towards men. That Atul has no discourse towards any kind of empathy or support system that he could seek out, share his feelings, had support. He was covered all around with hyenas that want to bite and snatch him out. That what was he experiencing and he experienced. There are subsystems within this, rule-based interaction. So there we are talking about this rigid legal and judicial system. There are family courts. So we are talking about subsystems here. There are family courts. There are legislation. There are law enforcement. There are legal professions, lawyers and bar council. Everyone is involved in this, rigid system. So it is not only that there is laws, there is this legal professions, lawyer and bar council. What are you teaching those new lawyers that they are, so much keen on, doing corruption and everything? What are these regulatory bodies doing? Law enforcement. What is the law enforcement doing? The way these are bound to procedural laws, and they take the complained by men lightly and females, very earnestly. And there is this legislation that we just talk about, the laws. Then there are, this family courts. What happens in the family courts? So let's go them one by one. The family courts operate under a complex web of procedural laws, code of civil procedure, code of criminal procedure, evidence rules, established legal precedents. These rules govern case filings, evidence presentation, arguments, and judgment delivery. The primary agents are judges, lawyers representing both parties, litigants, husband, wives, families, court staff, witness, and everything. So this context emphasizes the emotional tone on men like Atul Subhash who are caught in prolonged legal battles. So there is a rigid bias. There is strong bias, as we have talked a lot till now. So it's a perception that the family court exhibits a bias towards women, particularly case involving domestic violence, dowry, and maintenance. So there are judges that are heavily biased, and they entitledly speak to men as if it's his sole duty to do this, do that, especially in the case of false implications. So okay, it is understandable that there is also true cases, like, yeah, but I cannot still understand this concept of maintenance that is totally one-sided by the man. And even if the wife is earning, and even if the wife is earning more, man is not entitled to maintenance. I cannot understand the fact. I cannot understand the fact, this Domestic Violence Act is one-sided. Rape laws, one-sided. A lot of, biases, a lot of cultural shadows that is uh, seeped into creating these laws, which are in turn creating our cultural atmosphere that we live our lives in. Let's understand it. Claims made by women, especially under the section like 498A or domestic violence, are often perceived as being accepted with less rigorous scrutiny than the counter agreement or evidence presented by men, as happened with Atul Subhash. Counter evidence or arguments were nothing. So it didn't matter a thing in Atul Subhash case. So judge was feminist. She wanted to eat the man alive. She was laughing at the idea of him suiciding. He was playing around how crazy it is. So that context mentions that nobody is interested in knowing the truth, and that divorce has become a business here. Everyone's, including lawyers and corrupt police officers, profits. So this might include a lower threshold for accepting anecdotal evidence or a tendency to give more weight to women's narrative that is a strong reality. Women's narrative is given often, God was given a whole lot strength. And that is not only in the legal room, that is a whole culture-wide phenomenon. I spent a lot of time compiling this. I hope you appreciate this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you find value in this thing. I believe definitely you will find value in this thing. Differential application of legal principles. Fundamental legal principles like innocent until proven guilty are perceived as being applied differently here. The context says the laws says innocent until proven guilty, but when it comes to a society says you are guilty until proven innocent. This suggests a perceived shift in the burden of proof, disproportionately affecting men. This is the hall of family courts. Judicial discretion, judges being individuals embedding within a social context are not immune to conscious or unconscious biases. That is what I was talking about regarding Rita Kaushik. He has a strong bias towards feminism and female rights and possible male-hating misandry. These biases can stem from prevailing societal norms, personal experiences, or even exposure to media narratives. The influence of media on public opinion. So there is this instances. So there is Jasleen Kaur versus Sarabjit Singh, where media sensationalism led to labeling the man, Delhi's ka darinda, Delhi's monster before any court verdict. It's crazy how strong our cultural stigma is around men. Stating how public opinion can influence judicial outcomes. So there is over reliance on testimony. The context suggests that the systems often relies heavily on women testimony, even when it is unsubstantiated. There is no proof. There is nothing. Just because she's a woman, he's right. There is particularly problematic in cases where the false accusations are made. There is lack of standardized procedures for assessing credibility. There must be standardized procedures that are not followed or not existent at all. The absence of clear guidelines for evaluating the credibility of witnesses can lead to subjective judgment influenced by biases, and this is what happens. All judges have this subjective judgment, and if a judge has not higher moral development, it will hamper court proceedings, it will hamper legal process, it will hamper justice that have to be served to the janta. So there are feedback loops here. So this report, systemic report, has been made from us a perspective of complex adaptive systems that have developed from systems theory, that is an advanced concept which understands how intercomplicated systems interact together. So this is how I made this understanding of this rigid legal and justice system. So similarly, I've made this for the cultural atmosphere that we are in. There is this feedback loop. First of all, there are components in this systems, and in any systemic components there are feedback loops which regulate any specific action, procedure, or process. So there is this feedback loop which either motivates a certain kind of action process, and there is a negative feedback loop that kind of reduces the homeostasis, or like retains that initial state, or negates that process to be happening. So precedent setting. Each judgment in a family court contributes to the body of legal precedent. If biased decisions are made, they can create a self-reinforcing cycle. A biased case per biased case, biased case per biased case. What will happen? Society will become biased, and that is what has happened. These laws were made reactively, and then biased case per biased case, and that whole society, has turned this whole narrative towards villainizing men and everything. So it is not to blame anyone. So because this whole process was a process of moral development, and not only of individuals that operate in these systems, but also of the whole larger systems that we are involved in. It was not far away that in this world, the slavery was a normal thing about 300 years ago. But there came a level of development where human rights became important, and it was complete abolishment of slavery within and 200 years, because rationality emerged. Similarly, it is the time where there should be increasing some sensitivity, empathy, and this open-hearted embrace towards each human identity. There needs to for three solutions to make the judicial system fairer, indicating the dissatisfaction with current precedent. So the public perception of fairness or lack thereof of family court can create pressure for legislative or procedural reform. So the context explicitly calls for sharing information to bringing improvement in systems. So they are again and again mentioned. So there is public perception of fairness. So there is not an adequate public perception because public at this time considers corruption so much normal. It is because their perception of fairness is not justice reinforcing, because they have seen from always seen it is normal thing. And this thing creates pressures for legislative or procedural reform. If people won't push forth for justice and an improved legal system, there won't be any change. And it is important that there must be push from us common people. So the higher courts, high and supreme courts, play a crucial role in correcting potential biases through the appeal process that is currently ongoing, and I hope it should go well, because this thing has come to light, and this thing is complex systemic issue, real true issue that exists in our society, and that has been in dark for such a long time, just because of the societal stigma against men. So legislation, laws designed for women's protection. Several laws has been enacted in India to address historical gender inequality and protect women from violence and discrimination. So there are two parallel realities of genuine cases of violence against women and the misuse of these laws. Both are genuine realities. So it is not like these realities do not exist, but it is also that the other reality also exists, that the current backlash against this male victimization by the feminist is not considering that perspective. They just want to reinforce the female victimization again in this case by reinforcing the stereotypes against men. Very distressing, very trauma response based reactions. We just talk about all of them. So there is misuse of these laws. Many women file fake cases and destroy their homes and families. Lack of safeguards. So there is, echoes that there is, particularly 498A and various other laws, they lack sufficient safeguard to prevent false or frivolous complaints. The immediate arrest provisions, coupled with the social stigma associated with accusations, can have devastating consequences for the accused and the families, even if they eventually acquitted. There is no one that comes to to do reprimands for those that have faced devastated consequences from these accusations. They will often come to shame them. They will come to लांछन उड़ाने सब आएंगे, लेकिन कोई क्षतिपूर्ति करने कोई नहीं है. It is a hard bitter truth. It happens with that person that we just talked about, who has been named Delhi Gazarinda, and various other people even spent jails of years for false cases. So the context mentions that even though Supreme Court has warned against misusing these laws, it is still misused. So this warning won't do anything. Are you playing against us here? Weaponization. So this context highlights that these laws are being increasingly used as weapon in personal disputes, because legal battle is a battle because these things are weapons. False complaints can be filed to harass the husband and its family, extract financial settlement, or gain an advantage in custody battle. So it describes divorce as having become a machine to earn money, to blackmail. So indeed, a man is a ATM machine. It reminded me of Atul's video title. Oh shit. Okay. Asymmetrical impact. So due to the societal bias and the legal framework, men are disproportionately affected by false accusation. The context emphasizes that men don't always make mistakes. and that there are good women and bad women too. There are presumption of guilt coupled with difficulty in proving negative. So there is always, presumption of guilt. Men are always guilty. Yeah, they are the bad guys. They are the villains. They are the perpetrators. Always, always. So there's difficulty in proving the negative, that abuse did not occur, creates an imbalance. These are all of those aspects in this family code that we just discussed. There's interplay between laws, that multiple cases when they are filed, it exaggerates that, legal web, and it becomes very difficult, very expensive for the accused to navigate, and this can overwhelm the accused, create immense pressure to settle, even if the allegations are fake, and this were fake for Atul, and he was pressurized by all of those things. It was not a joke, 9 cases that he experienced. There is forum shopping, so there is like multiple legal avenues that allows complainants to choose the forum they perceive as most favorable to them, potentially exacerbating the bias. So Nikita, his wife, chose the Jaunpur, court. Perhaps she may have knew that that would have favored her. It is forum shopping, Though a complainant can choose, wherever they will be receiving the favor. It is easy as that, and the accused will have to suffer. For adaptive landscape, these laws have significantly altered the adaptive landscape of family disputes. While they were intended to empower women and address historical injustices, they have also created new challenges and unintended consequences. The ease with which these laws can be invoked, coupled with the potential for misuse, has created a climate of fear and mistrust. So there is increasing fear and mistrust within the system, within the society, among men and women. Whole gender dynamics is messed up. Whole systemic trust is messed up, and this will only get worse. It will not get easy on the government. It will not get easy in the intergender relationships among, at the cultural level. It will only get worse because this thing has come to light, and these shadows will catch up more and more trauma, until this trauma healing, until these collective shadows are processed at the collective level, not just on, surface level value by, doing things that just make, those complainants, those related to Atul's and families, just settle the case by pushing them inside jail or everything. That it would be the surface level thing. The thing is, major cultural systemic changes are required to heal those shadows, shadows traumas that are at this time. Very, very important. So there are feedback loops in this. So there's legislative amendments. The misuse of these laws has led to the call for amendments to introduce safeguards against false complaints. Very important safeguards to have. So, however, these attempts are often met with resistance from women rights groups. Exactly, that is the case. Who fear that diluting the laws will weaken the effectiveness and protective women. So they have this trauma. So women also have this trauma response. It is not like they are the women villains, women that are against the men's rights. Understandable that you are not being rational in your responses regarding, and you're being very insensitive, and you are being okay. I still can empathize with Rika, despite being all very insensitive and very not mature. But I can understand that this is also a generational trauma response from the collective female community. It needs to be tended at larger scale. It would require systemic interventions, and definitely influencers like us will do our part in doing that. Just let me know if all of this is helping you in understanding and making sense of what is happening, so that I can continue to make content like this again. This creates a complex political dynamic. The judicial pronouncement. The Supreme Court and various high courts have on several occasions expressed concern about the misuse of these laws and have issued guidelines to prevent their abuse. These pronouncements have created feedback within the system, influencing police procedures and lower court decisions. The context mentions Supreme Court's warning regarding the misuse of 498A. So they have given warnings, social discourse. The ongoing debate about these laws in this media and public forums shape public perception and can influence legislative action and judicial interpretation. So the context in itself is contribution to the social discourse aiming to raise awareness about the issue of false accusation against men. There is increasing debate that is very much important, as communication is the key of healing collective trauma, that most people don't want to talk about the ongoing stigma around men and being labeled anti-woman or thing. But if you won't talk openly about these things won't come up from the dark and shadows, and trauma will remain and will continue to haunt in the sidelines at cultural level. And someday This cultural trauma, it is not like you are immune to this cultural trauma. You are surrounded by those people who are kind of thrust, by this trauma. That thing will eventually hit you. So it is important at cultural level we take responsibility of healing this cultural trauma. So there is this law enforcement, another system we are talking about now. Law enforcement agencies, primarily the police, are bound by procedural laws, CRPC, that dictates how complaints are registered, of information reports. Investigations are conducted, arrests are made, evidence is collected and presented in the court. Everyone knows that. Police officers interact with the complainants, often women in these cases, accused individuals, husband and their families, witnesses, medical professions involving violence. So these are the interactions that these law enforcement have. So forensic experts, legal professions. So this implies that corrupt police officers are a part of a business of false accusations. So it is indeed a business. Everyone knows that, strong corruption in our system, and everyone knows that police do that on constant basis because they know that they can leverage those who are vulnerable. Vulnerable are often preyed by these predators, and there are predators where there is flow of money and power. There is bias. So there is differential response with women, and then there is a different response with men. So complaint filed with women are perceived as being prioritized and treated with greater urgency than there is complaint filed by men. Even in cases of domestic violence, they are not treated seriously, and they are laughed and mocked upon. So it's like, yeah, are you a man? You're getting beaten by a wife. Then if a man actually beats a wife, he is implicated in case. So it is how rigid, this bias is. So the thing is, they are not being trained. They are trained to, being sensitive about a woman, but they are not trained to be sensitive about all serious issues. This is lack of training in the system. Uh, these police officers, these are not people who are acting on their thing. They have been educated by the system, this system that is inadequate. Arrest procedures. The power of arrest under 498A, which allows for immediate arrest without a warrant based on the woman's complaint, has been a major point of contention. The context highlights this as a significant issue, contributing to the harassment of individual men and their family. This provision can be misused, leading to the arrest of individual innocents, including elderly parents or relatives who may have no involvement in the alleged offense. So this is what happens. So elderly parents, relatives, no involvement in the offense. They also threatened by police because police know how to make cream out of that, scrape the cream out of anything. They make it hook or back by even things by their way, not following protocols. Investigation bias. So investigations into the complaints filed under these laws are often alleged to be biased against men. This can manifest as inadequate scrutiny of evidence. Evidence presented by a woman might be acceptable at face value, while evidence presented by the accused might be dismissed or not thoroughly investigated. The same thing, the bias that empowers women specifically and that disempowers men. If anyone talks about, culturally that feminism and everything, so women take it at personal level that, as if others, feminists take it at personal level that they don't want us to flourish. They don't want us to be. It is not about them not being empowered. It is about if you become over empowered because power is like currency. Power is like energy. If one thing flows, there is a limited amount of energy in any system. If any system takes a disproportionate amount of energy, the other system have to compensate for it. That is happening in this, gender dynamic landscape that men are disproportionately disadvantaged by this lack of systemic power, which is instigated by lack of support system within the system, culture, legal framework, everywhere around. It is a complex issue, definitely, and it is the reason most people are not able to give their understandings or verdict regarding this because it is far beyond their scope of understanding to include all of these complexities that are in our cultural landscape. They often give one-sided view, and they often give the view that is not inclusive of everyone. So what we need is that we need to be inclusive of everyone. We want the harmony with all the components in our system, societal system, working in their best health. That is what we want. Failure to consider the accused perspective. Police might not adequately record or investigate the version of evidence presented by accused, leading to one-sided investigation. That is what happens. One-sided investigation. Pressure to file charge sheet. There can be pressure on police to officers to quickly charge charge sheets in cases involving violence against women when evidence is weak due to public pressure, internal performance metrics, and a lot of things. So police officers are quick to file charge sheet, and I have recently heard a message of an IPS officer that was sent to Deepika Bharadwaj. He was talking about that they were the IPS officer had seen like various cases, false cases, and she discarded them based on merit. But the lawyer then filed false cases against that IPS officer that he's anti-woman kind of thing, and a lot of so there is a strong ideology, regarding women being supportive of women, and it does not matter if a man is supported or not. It does not matter if a man is being a victim or not. It does not matter if a man is suffering or not. It does not even matter, if if this Atul guy suicide case will, go into silence. It means that it does not even matter if a man dies or not at such a large that this thing has risen up and till then. Because when two die every day, it is the suicide rate of men is increasing constantly, and this will continue to increase if there is no strong cultural shift, as this movement goes. There is feedback loop in this system. So there is impact on public perception. Police action, particularly arrest and the filing of charge sheet, significantly impact the public perception of the accused. Just like what has happened with the Dalit Darinda case. So that is the name that guy has got. So what a shameless thing that our culture does. So even if a person is later acquitted, the social stigma of having been arrested and charged can be long lasting, as illustrated in the case of Sarvajit Singh. Exactly. The quality of the police investigation directly impact the outcome of judicial proceedings. A biased or incomplete investigation can lead to wrongful convictions or acquittals. It is very much happen that police investigation can be heavily biased or incomplete based on how much money they receive or based on what kind of pressure is moving them internally, because they are not stringent on what course of action they do on a standard operating procedure. It is not like that. Police training and sensitization. The way police officers are trained and sensitized to gender issues play a crucial role in shaping the behavior. They are trained into program where they issue like gender sensitivity, domestic violence, potential misuse of laws, and you know uh, regarding female side only. The sensitivity is only towards female side. So there is gaps in training. So we need to identify where the training is lack and we need improvement. So now we are not talking about just Atul's case and where who need justice and what need justice. There is this whole system that we are living in. This system is made up of a lot of things, and we are only now discussing regarding systems that are family code, law enforcement, legal professions, that lawyers and bar council, and what the regulatory body does, and the legislation. These very strong systems impact all of us. And then there's also this cultural aspect. Those things that are inside us that are impacting us from the fabric of society and each of the person that we together create these co-creating realities. So all of those things need reform. It is not that this justice, the murder was only done by those five people that he mentioned in this his suicide note. This murder is done by this whole system. This murder is done by every if you see this mirror, the person you see, all of those persons that make this thing that we called culture. This thing kill that person because we created this stigma, we created this cultural narrative, we created this collective, interior spaces together. So there is impact of sensitization program. So evaluating the effectiveness of sensitization program aimed at changing police attitude and behavior towards men and women involved in family disputes. So there is a total, process that needs to be done regarding police training, which is very important thing. So there is departmental policies and guidelines. So examining internal police guidelines and standard operating procedures related to the handling complaints under these laws. This includes analyzing whether these guidelines promote impartial investigation and discourage arrest without sufficient evidence, which is very, very important. And this will prevent a lot of false filing. It is not only the law that will help, it is also this thing, training of this police and everything that will only work when these laws are, shifted, and there is, shifted in cultural narrative, and a lot of complex, systemic elements together will lead to these outcomes that men's rights activists are deeming for in the justice, and females, feminists have been, ideally advocating for a society that actually has equality. So ideally, that in this era of narcissistic women feminist extremist that has turned into misandry, and it is a lot prevalent, that man-hating ideology, and it is scary the amount of women actually celebrates this man-hating ideology, and it is also promoted a lot in social media without any repercussions of cancel culture, as if these it is being promoted in the name of smash the patriarchy. So there is rules and ethics. So rules and ethics are different things. There is this law that and rules that are created by us, book, constitution, IPC, BNS. These are rules. Ethics are created by us people. What we think is right, what we think is wrong. We think that corruption is normal. It is our ethics. So corruption is normalized. We think that talking to a woman is bad, behaving with women is bad, and we have created that ethic together. So it is not done bad. We say that there is a man should not be emotional, and he should man up. That we created that. So men do not show their feelings anymore. They are the stoic providers. So we created that. These ethics. So there is legal professionals, lawyers, and bar counsel. That is another system, the final system that we will be discussing here. Lawyers in India are governed by the Advocate Act and the rules framed by bar council, and these rules dictate professional conduct, ethical obligations, duties towards client, and responsibilities toward the courts and administration of justice. These dictate that what should be done. So lawyers interacting with clients, what happens there? So lawyers interact with clients, husband, wife, families, there is opposing counsels, there is judges, court staff, witness, bar counsels. They play a crucial role in shaping the legal strategy, presenting evidence, and arguing cases in court. So they provide that resource, a very important resource for our society. So there is an alleged corruption and misconduct filled with this bar council and these lawyers. So there is this entitlement within all of them regarding that they are these protectors of law and creators of reform and revolution, everything. And this is also one of the reasons why this bar council, because they have such strong unity together, this bar council is scared that to oppose them, to scared to to take a strong disciplinary action against them, because they will together go to a strike, not a bad thing and everything, and the process will falter. This is why there is no disciplinary action against lawyers. I've heard from a lawyer friend of mine. She was talking about how a lawyer, a female lawyer, has filed implicated 7 people in false cases again and again, again and again, and she was also found with evidence that she had done that. And bar council had taken the case so lightly, and the proceedings were very slow and everything. And she's still roaming around freely. And those are the people who are the cause of people like Atul suffering. Those are the people who do things like that. Bar council. What is the bar council doing? Allowing lawyers to do these kinds of things, to promote such immoral, unethical ways of providing justice just to have a couple of bucks more. So greedy, so lachar, survival. So is this the kind of system that is running in our legal professionals? This lachari pan se bhara corruption-dreaded system. The significant concern is that some lawyers prioritize financial gains over the pursuit of justice. This can lead to encouraging false or exaggerated cases. The lawyers might advise clients to file false or exaggerated complaints against under the laws like 498 to extract a large settlement or harass opposing party, because opposing party will be giving money for everything, for even for the girl side and even for their fees and for everything. So they need to have more money from them, and they will only get if they file more cases. Simple. There is prolonged litigation. There is an economic incentive to prolong the litigation. Lawyers charge more fees based on the number of court appearances and duration of the case, and it can be detrimental to both parties, as a popular phrase, "Tariq pe tariq, tariq pe tariq," especially the accused, who might face substantial ruin and emotional distress, as exemplified by Atul Subhash. So taking the percentage of settlement, some lawyers are accused of taking a significant percentage of settlement amount as their fees, creating a conflict of interest where the financial interest might not align with the best interest of their client. So there is lack of accountability. So Bar Council of India is often criticized for being ineffective in regulating the legal profession and disciplining errant lawyers. This lack of accountability can embolden unethical behavior that they have been constantly doing, and no one is questioning the validity of whether the bound counseling is doing the right thing. Are they worthy of receiving that constant support, fundings, and everything from the government that they are working for not systemic changes are required here. Complaint against lawyers for misconduct often languish for years without resolution. So there is Machiavellianism. So Machiavellianism is a dark psychology trait. It means that end justifies means. अगर मेरे को कोई चीज चाहिए मैं किसी भी तरीके से हासिल करूंगा चाहे कुछ भी करना पड़े उसका. The highly competitive, stressful, and often adversarial nature of the legal profession, particularly in family law, can foster win at all cost mentality. It is a zero sum game जो बना दिया है इन्होंने. और win at all cost यानी सामने वाले को तोड़ देना, मरोड़ देना, तबाह कर देना. It is that legal battle that goes on. It can lead to ethical compromises where lawyers might prioritize winning the case over upholding the principles of justice. This aligns with the concept of Machiavellianism, where ends are seen as justifies the means, even if those means are ethically questionable. Exploitation of legal loopholes. Lawyers might exploit ambiguity or loopholes in laws to advantage for their clients, even if it means misleading the course or engaging in unfair practices. Creation of false evidences. In extreme cases, lawyer might be involved in fabricating evidence, coercing witnesses to give false testimony, suppressing evidence that is unfavorable to the client. That Atul Subhash feels that the judge Rita Kaushik will do. Undue influence and pressure. Some lawyers might attempt to influence judges through personal connections, political pressure, or by creating public outcry through media trials. They may also try to intimidate or harass opposing party or the lawyers. So this is what has also happened. Baatcheet, delaying tactics. We're intentionally delaying court proceeding by filing frivolous applications, seeking unnecessary adjournments, or not cooperating with the court schedule can be used as a tactic to exhaust the opposing party financially and emotionally, forcing them to settle on unfavorable terms. That is what happened with Atul Subhash. It's happened a lot with him, and it is what has also happened with him. That to exhaust him, this thing of not cooperating with the court schedule and delaying, seeking unnecessary adjournments and filing frivolous applications to exhaust him, financially and emotionally. Emotional exhaustion is real strong. It is not any easy thing back then. The feedback loops. So it is impact on public trust. So the perception of widespread corruption and unethical behavior among lawyers erodes public trust in the legal profession and the justice system as a whole. It will happen and it should happen because this system is rigged. Bar Council reforms. The Bar Council of India's effectiveness or lack thereof in regulating the profession creates a feedback loop. If unethical behavior is not adequately punished, it can become more prevalent. Conversely, strong disciplinary action can deter misconduct. Legal education and ethics training. The quality of legal education and the emphasis of professional ethics in law school plays a crucial role in shaping the values and behaviors of future lawyers. At least that can be done if this thing is taken cognizance of. The culture of legal profession. The overall culture within the legal profession, including the norms, values, and unwritten rules that govern interaction between lawyers, can either reinforce or challenge unethical practices. A culture that prioritizes winning above all else can be detrimental to the administration of justice. So here we have finally finished the systemic report, the subsystems. So there is rule-based interactions here. There is the emergent behaviors that come with these subsystems that we see here. So these are the four systems, and these interact with each other, and this creates a feedback loop together. So the complex interaction between these subsystems viewed through the lens of provided context gives rise to several emergent behaviors. So when these things interact, there is new emergent behavior that comes up from it. So there is systemic bias. So the combination of perceived judicial bias in family courts and the ease with which certain laws are invoked and potentially misused, differential laws, enforcement practices, and the influence of unethical legal profession create a system that many perceive as being biased against men in family dispute. This is an emergent property of a system, not necessarily an intentional design feature. It was not intentioned to, system to have corruption. It was not intentioned that these laws to be misused. It was not intention that men should be, suffering emerged because these system had these biases. These systems were not refined, and these systems need, those feedback loops which refine them. That is absent in our systems, which would require them to be improved at level which promotes cultural development along with this hyped up infrastructural and economic development which our country stands for. In the name of naam banane ke liye, on the global stage. So there is fear and mistrust. The perceived bias and the potential for false accusation have created a climate of fear and mistrust among men. So it will only increase. So it is alarmingly high. This fear and mistrust I have been seeing in not only the male rights community, but even the comments within this common Instagram reels that men are traumatized, men are scared, men are alienated, men, it will only get worse, and on the extreme side, it could lead to societal collapse if this thing continues and the dynamics does not heal adequately. So there's reluctance to marrying. Some men will become hesitant to enter into marriage or long-term relationship due to the fear of being falsely accused and facing legal battles. So there is a need for prenuptial agreement as a solution. Prenuptial agreement is very important. It is as if there is every couple is unique. Every couple has their own needs, biases, and their own background and their own systems that are governing their lives. So a singular legal body cannot define and generalize a situation of each and every person in the world. What do you think are the bhed bakri, the cattle sheep herd? India has the largest population. तो क्या भेड़ बकरी बना दी है सबको एक ही तराजू से सबको तोड़ रहे हैं? It does not make sense, especially in the case of this marriage, where it is एक तरफ तो क्या it is sacred pact, सात जन्मों का रिश्ता, and एक तरफ that sacred pact is kind of making a man handicap, like into the verge of dying at such a disadvantage at a cultural level. So that does not make sense. What needs to be done is that prenuptial agreement would be specified laws. It is like laws, a kind of system that would be governing what kind of relationship they want to have. So why are we bounded with this government that is not actually intending to serve us? We need our own freedom in our marriage. We are not bound by this system. This system is imprisoning us in the way it is encasing us in this system. Oh, these prenups are not valid in India. If you have married, you have to follow Indian law, and Indian law says that you don't have any rights. It does not make sense. It is a big issue, and that will only be healed by this prenuptial agreement. The defensive strategies, men might adopt defensive strategies in relationships such as documenting interactions. I have heard a lot of people doing or thinking about doing that, avoiding situations that could be misconstrued, further eroding trust and intimacy. Trust and intimacy is a thing when there is implicit contract of your non-suspicion, and these things like documenting interaction, avoiding situations like this, these are things which show suspicion. Men need to protect themselves. They would be doing these things. This would erode trust. This would deteriorate the anti-gender dynamics. It would impact relationships. And I cannot understand why all of these things are not thought through by these lawmakers and system designers and everything. So very issue. It is a very big issue. And the thing is not that this thing have it, because गलती सब कोई करता है, हर कोई करता है. But the thing is, these issues are not being refined based on the feedback that they receive on a constant basis. They are just drunk on this, political agendas like a dharam yuddha kind of thing, Kashmir and everything. I don't know. They are identity issues, seriously. Impact on family formation, and it would impact family formation rates, societal structures, and a lot of things. So, because India has the largest army and that kind of thing, and families are not formed. All of those, that protection and everything, army. Well, Indian have this, take a high on this army and everything. These wars and having these weapons and protections along with them. That no one will be there to serve your army if people are not getting involved in this emerging civilization. Erosion of trust in justice. The perception that the legal and judicial system is rigged or unfair erodes public trust in the rule of law. This can lead to a decline in respect for legal and judicial system, legal institution, a decrease in willingness to cooperate with the law enforcement, and a general sense of cynicism about the possibility of obtaining justice. Was what happened with Atul. He was very cynic. He turned into despair, and he was again and again bombarded with the view that there is no justice for one. And he followed that perspective through and through till he created a construct of reality where he could sacrifice himself for the justice of man of this planet by creating such a vast repository of resources that can put others, spark everyone at the cultural level. That was what he did. So there is a backlash and a call for reform. The perceived injustice have fueled the growing men's rights movement in India. This movement advocates for legal reform to address imbalances, including safeguards of false complaints, and also proposing false complaints punishable, which should be made. I do not understand that making false complaints, false allegations punishable. How would this thing reduce the importance of women's safety? Are they scared of going to file complaint because they would be labeled into the false accusation? Are they scared of going to, because if you are right and this system is also corrupted? I can understand this now. This system is also corrupted. So the thing is, this is a very complex issue indeed, that women are also scared that if this false allegation will be made punishable, they would be scared to go to the police. And if this thing is actively on, then those with power can implicate them into that this false punishment, false allegation, even if she may be right, and then she would be punished. That is another thing altogether. We need serious balance in this thing. I can understand that sensitivity towards this thing, but it still is totally insensitive towards men. I am still trying to be sensitive towards women regarding all of those that has happened with men and that is happening with. But the concerning thing is that how much outrage is still not a large amount of women that are I see are still sensitive towards men. It is like it has become a zero sum game, a gender war, which is very concerning. Making false accusation a punishable offense, strengthening the mechanism for investigating and punishing malicious prosecution. These all are the things which will strengthen the legal proceedings, and it should be there to improve the legal processes. It is not just about male or female right. It is about how the law is being implemented. The context advocate for gender neutral laws, so improving the regulation of legal profession for unethical practices. So there is polarization and social division that is and that will increase debate around surrounding these laws. Alleged misuse increasing polarized, creating division within society. The polarization can make it difficult to have constructive dialogue and find common ground for reform. So much happening. Polarization, strong polarization, so strong. Cannot even imagine that strong gender wars. No one willing to hear. There is all name calling. There is all no rational conversations, all emotional conversations. I will discuss it in social, cultural, political later. So this context acknowledges the existence of both genuine and false cases, urging people not to deny their reality. So this is the healing, cultural healing, trauma resolution, and it would require therapeutic intervention. It would require visionaries like me and a lot of people who could see beyond these things, these complex adaptive systems and how they're emerging and how this culture is taking stands, evolving. Only those people who can see beyond this complex systemic problem could solve them. Others will only give partial truths, partial but true. It is not that partial truths are not useful, but partial truths not whole. They are whole in themselves, but they are not more whole. So it is more important to, especially in these polarized times, you need to have a source that provides you more inclusive and highly resonant truth rather than just moving on to your echo chambers and deriving whatever that feels good to you. You do not need that if you want to move forward into your own and cultural development. So there is cycle of misuse and mistrust. So perception of bias system can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, because that is what happened with Atul. He also have had opportunities, but he created a self-fulfilling prophecy. He had a powerful bias of regarding the system, and it created a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I would urge men to be mindful of what their worldview is, especially after this. Now he has sacrificed himself. You don't need to sacrifice yourself now. The things may change, and the number one thing is just have hope. If men believe they will not be treated fairly, they might be more likely to engage in unethical behaviors themselves, further justifying the existed biases and creating vicious cycle. It is not about just suiciding. It is about these worldviews. It dictates your behaviors. It is not like क्या करना है mindset बदल के क्या करना सोच है ये चीजें सही करूंगा मैं. It is not like that. You also need to change your worldviews, meditate, have good company support system around you, do whatever. De-biasing yourself is very important in these situations specifically, to have a clear rational mind and to have a strategic implemented approach to resolve the complex systemic issues that you are stuck in. But there is impact on women's safety. Ironically, the misuse of laws intended to protect women can ultimately undermine their effectiveness when the genuine victims come forward. This is what will happen, because The perspective regarding women is changing now, and this will backfire on them. Definitely backfire on them, and this will backfire on everyone. This whole society will collapse if it discontinues. This can discourage women from reporting abuse and make it harder for them to obtain justice. The context highlights this by stating that denying either the existence of genuine cases of violence against women or existence of false accusation is causing injustice to both. It is injustice to both. It is not a zero-sum game or man versus woman, and we need to move beyond that. Everyone needs to move beyond that. It is not a zero-sum game. We have to coexist, male, women, man, woman, and everyone that exists on this planet, plants, animals, this planet, Gaia system, solar system. We all are interconnected beings existing together, co-creating our reality. So why creating these boundaries? First there was religion, Hindu, Muslim, and everything, and then there is this. And people are finding more and more ways to create boundaries for these countries and everything, states, caste, and everything. Continuously rejecting the idea of a unity and togetherness, this vulnerability and open-hearted connections, service. And one of the reason it is because people seriously lack a lot in this spiritual development that is concerned with what is the ultimate purpose of life and what is concerned with your identity, what you think of yourself, it is concerned with your worldview, and that is concerned with what will you live and what will you die for. Most of these people are in identity crisis at this time. Most of the people confused and lost and are moving on to the most superficial values, this money and fame. And if not, they will move on to finding their identity, there where they belong, wherever they will fit, wherever they feel, it completes their identity. For example, any religious identity, I am a Hindu, I am a Muslim. Any country-based identity, I am an Indian. Any gender-based identity, I am a man. I am a woman. Any caste-based identity, like I am a Jat, I am a Rajput. This is boundaries. This is all identification with this limited perspectives. Okay, it is true, but it is limited. You are not just that. You are infinite in the ways you can create infinite possibilities from your being. So we also need a strong spiritual reform. I think we can cover it in present socio-cultural political situation, which is integrated with gender dynamics, cultural shadows, and systemic disequilibriums. I know that may be too technical for some people, and but I know that those who will be following will be people, I believe, who will really appreciate these understandings that are from a higher order perspective. So the present socio-cultural political situation. Okay, so we will also talk about the trauma, shadow, and whatever the cultural complexity we have here. So the Indian socio-cultural political landscape present a quintessential case study. So it is a case study whole for complex adaptive system at a higher. So in a state of advanced dynamic disequilibrium, this integrated system, a vast and heterogeneous network of interacting agents, individuals, social groups, institutions, and global actors, is experiencing escalating internal tensions. Internal tensions are escalating, particularly within the domain of gender relations, and it will continue to increase. But these tensions are deeply intertwined with cultural shadows, unacknowledged and unresolved aspect of the collective psyche. These things come from my background in psychodevelopmental psychology and sociology. So I have been compiling all of these things so from quite a long time, as I've said, and I hope this would be helpful to you. And are amplified by integrate feedback loops, nonlinear dynamics. So these comes of systems theory again, intertwining all of this and rapidly evolving digital landscape. So the tragic suicide of Atul Subhash, my deep condolences, and the ensuing online discourse as a critical lens through which to examine these systemic imbalances. The system is teetering on the brink of a phase transition with the potential for either catastrophic breakdown. So there will be either catastrophic breakdown or a transformative change. It is on the brink of that. It is seriously good, and I seriously feel a respect. It is not that I condemn the act of Subhash that he has done wrong to his family and everything. Okay, but I also feel respect by the way he has crafted all these things, the way his video that he have created and these documents he have created and all of those things. That was not a work of mindless, irrational, reactive response to trauma. That was not that. That was a masterpiece that he had done, and that he had given a lot of thought, a lot of time, and it was the process by which he decided if this is the right thing to do for me. It is what he decided in the process. So it was also a way in which he brainstormed the possible alternatives and articulated everything and finalized that this suffering is overbearing for his psychological threshold, and that he would collapse from the amount of trauma that is ongoing within him at the psychological level, that he need to resolve only by ending his life. So I would not justify his act. Again, I'm telling you, but I am just letting you understand the dynamics that happened within his mind. My perception, obviously, it is what happened. The thing is that it was not pre-rational. The thing I'm stressing here, it was not pre-rational, and it was not pre-conventional. It was not at all conventional, because it's conventional, morals don't state it was post-conventional. He has sparked shift, and everyone know that he intended that by the way he has made things in draft. He knew that it would spark outrage, and that is the thing that I would appreciate, that he was not pre-conventional morals. So the framework I'm using to describe these morals is the framework of Lawrence Kohlberg, stages of moral development. It shows what stage of moral development that you are, and I am labeling Atul Subhash not a conventional moral, not a pre-conventional moral that most feminists will label him as, but post-conventional morals that are beyond the reason. So there's key findings and insights. The gender relations as destabilizing force. So Subhash use case starkly illuminates how gender relations have become a central destabilizing force within the Indian CAS. CAS is complex adaptive system. The online discourse reveals a highly polarized system characterized by competing victimhood narratives. So there is emergence of both male and female competitive narrative victimhood. So fueled by perceived bias within the legal system, amplified by social media. So this creates a zero-sum dynamic that is polarizing. It is creating polarizations, which is very much problematic. It hinders constructive dialogue and fuels intergroup conflict, and these intergroup conflicts are increasing as now of them are able to present their views in a structured, rational, systemic, all-inclusive manner. There is trauma-based reactive responses to the situation, which are partial reactionary overcorrections, to whatever they hold their bias as true. There is erosion of trust in the justice system. Then there is perception of systemic bias coupled with allegation of corruption, weaponization of legal mechanism, and has severely eroded trust in the justice system. Justice system will collapse like this, seriously, particularly among men. This erosion of trust represents a critical systemic vulnerability. It is amplification of cultural shadows. The discourse reveals deep-seated cultural shadows related to gender roles, power, and vulnerability, unresolved developmental conflicts, and unconscious defense mechanisms, which are projection, denial, and splitting, further exacerbate intergroup tensions and hindering reconciliation. So there is cultural shadow there. These are these trauma at cultural level is everyone is experiencing. Their trauma related to gender roles. It has becoming confusing. Like what gender identity actually means. Females has overcome their gender identity thing, but they have to evolve their worldview regarding the opposite spectrum of the gender polarity. And men have to do a lot of inner work, and that also requires to integration of the feminine aspect, and also include acceptance of the male masculine and feminine aspect of feminine identity, female identity. So they are shadows regarding power, which is indeed power balance. So it is not that what is happening. Females are obviously running the discourse and narrative that male are empowered, dominating, and power thirsty bloodsuckers, and male rights showing up as feminist, and laws are totally biased and rigid, and these has made them completely one-sided game, making us powerless completely and everything. So there is strong biases. So there is partial truth in everything. There are certain powerlessness in females. There is strong empowerment in female. But it does not mean that there is only this partial truth. There is also this how much degree of partial truth is there. There is 5% of partial truth, and there is 90% of partial untruth. And then there is male sides, there is a higher degree of partial truth that they are experiencing, because a lot of that is went into the cultural shadows because people don't want to see it. It is into the darkness. It is a stigmatized thing. Unresolved developmental conflicts and the unconscious defense mechanisms, projection, denial, splitting. So projection, yani, you project an aspect of yourself, for example, fear, and you're projecting outside. Oh, all men are scary. It is because there is this. This is a psychological thing. I'm not labeling it at anything. It is just a mechanism how trauma operates, and this is the reason why there is trauma projection going at all around. It happened specifically recently when the Kolkata race case was sparked, when all females were labeling all men are rapists just because they were projecting their fears onto all men. It is their, own responsibility at the emotional level to regulate their emotions and to operate the level of rational reasoning and then formulate a response that is appropriate to the situation, the ethical level. But they were insensitive to that contextual situation. Similarly, there is, now this trauma has gone into men. So like this, has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Females who are obviously pushing around this, narrative again and again that we have been, intergenerational trauma and everything. And this trauma, they actually have owned it, even if they did not had it from birth. They were conditioned to the narrative that we have this intergenerational trauma by females and everything, that we live in a society that is dominated by men and everything, and they owned it and then they manifested it as a self-fulfilling prophecy, and they just see it because there is confirmation bias which allows you to see things that you hold true to yourself and you see only those things. It happened with them, and now they have traumatized this whole system by this feminist narrative. I'm not blaming females. I'm telling this discourse that is run by this feminist ideology, and this feminist ideology narrative now traumatized all men. And then there is feminist ideology that not directly impact all men, that all male right activists are addressing at this time, but they cannot eloquently explain this thing. Then I shall explain that thing. So this feminist ideology stepped into this mindset of all the females that exist all around, and then that feminist ideology stepped through all the systems that we see, transformed those systems and turned them anti-men. And then those systems are traumatizing men, and then those men are again traumatized, and they are becoming anti-woman, and then they are becoming confused and towards this their identities, social standing, rights, everything. So this trauma bonding, this trauma sharing, is this the game at cultural level this gender wars is trying to play? So I'm just making you all conscious about what is happening in the background, and just ponder it. Is this the thing that you want to keep on, pakadam pakadai, luka chupi is kind of thing? So just understand and think about this. The denial, strong denials about accountability and acceptance of your own flaws and this internal issues that are caused by feminism. Feminists don't want to accept at all. And then there are certain issues that females face, but male right activists are already traumatized with whatever males are experiencing collectively, and they reject that perspective. They are fighting together, and it continues, and it will continue to, because they all are trauma based responses. A lot of things need to heal. The feedback loop of misogyny and misandry. So this is the feedback loop. Misogyny will create misandry, misandry will create misogyny, and until both of them exist, they both will continue and they will both will expand. And if they both will expand, they will extinguish the whole society and nothing will remain. This is the feedback loop. If you need to, it is paradoxical, but it is true that if you need to remove one thing, you will have to remove both things, misandry and misogyny. If you cannot do that, you cannot have that, this whole equality kind of thing that you are imagining. And you cannot do that for others. Main thing, you can only do this for yourself. You can only heal your internal misogyny and misandry, and you can only do that belief in a work for yourself. And you can take that being that you have transformed, become, and healed, and the way your identity is, your subconscious is, it will impact the creation of reality in a more justful and high moral ground way, and it will heal others. this is the way you will heal the culture. It is not that you will spread misandry and misogyny and then stand up for the rights of equality and do things. It is not that how it will work. So there's cultural shadow and then collective shadow. The analysis reveals the presence of collective cultural shadows. Okay. Acknowledge an unresolved aspect of the collective psyche that significantly impact the system's behavior and contribute to equilibrium. This includes the shadow of male vulnerability. So there is a strong shadow in male vulnerability. Males cannot be vulnerable, emotionally expressive. This leads to suppression of males' experience of injustice. Whenever males show injustice, you're expressing emotions. You're mad. You're a man, a guy. So this contributes to mental health issue at large scale. This is a societal collective shadow. It is not just about now, all of those things. If Atul have this expression of vulnerability and this was not culturally stigmatized, he could have sought support from others. This is a cultural stigma. So it increases the risk of suicide, as tragically exemplified by this case. Shadow female agency and anger. So one of the strongest shadows that no one knows, no one wants to talk about. Acknowledgement is far of the way of that. So there is a shadow around female agency and anger, often manifesting as the demonization of assertive women and propagation of feminazi stereotype. There is this thing. So this assertion of women, this female empowerment and this strong independent woman, this archetype of female agency empowerment has gone too far into this masculine energies that they have completely lost the essence of their feminine nurturing, a motherly love kind of energies and drives. It has completely lost that. So what has in the going extremes toward this masculine energies, they have become more of anger, they have become more of rebellious, they have become more of I can't do anything by myself, I will do anything by myself, and no one can stop me. If you can't stop me, I will smash and break you into pieces. This is the kind of mentality that this extremist feminist stereotypes are propagating with their misandrist, man hating outlook. So, specifically in that, it exists. So, that is what many people in communities say it like feminazi. This shadows hinder the healthy expression of female empowerment and contributes to gender polarization. It's great that females have attained an identity that is also masculine and also feminine. It is a higher stage of identity as demonstrated by Jane Lovinger's stages of development, as far as I remember. In that, there is also Carol Gilligan's stages of care. First, there is identity that woman is only feminine, and then there is this identity that she only cares for herself, her identity, and so then she cares for her family. So most of the women in this era, by this feminist and privileges and everything, they are stuck into this masculine energy. First of all, highly masculine energies, rebellious kind of attitude, rebellious, over empowered attitude, narcissistic attitude, and then what they are doing is that they, with that thing, they remain at that egocentric level of that I, me, and myself. It is all my needs and everything. That feminism came up when the level of development of women reached out to a point when they were transcending their feminine energies to incorporate the masculine energies. They have moved beyond their identities, and that transition happened after you reach a world-centric stage where you attain an identity where you have concern for each and every human that you see all around. You have your feminine energy and you see each and every woman person that is all around, and you have care for everyone. That is your feminine side. You have your love and nurture for everyone. And then from that, you reach out to this next stage that integrates that your male aspect, that integrates both internal yin and yang. For men, similarly, there is that stage that their stage is relatively different. So they have this eros. So that eros causes chaos because that is innovation. So if you see a child, a boy child, that always runs around doing crazy things, jumping, hitting walls, and it is how boys are. Boys have this, men have this, testosterone that is responsible for their aggression, and aggression is not a bad thing. Aggression is a nature's drive. It is how, nature propagates itself. It is how nature's evolve, or it is how genetics emerge. What happens is that if you see bull striving with another bull, for mating, it is eros. If you see a reindeer, pushing a log to cross a river, it is not angry at the, log. It is just want to cross the river, and he's using energy to, force to do that. That is aggression, but that is not bad. But male aggression is completely demonized. This eros, the healthy expression of man's side, in the overcoming and integrating of female identity, what they have done that they culturally have repressed the male identity, even the healthy male identity that stereotypically was known to be like aggressive and everything. They weren't like, oh, no aggression is allowed for men. I'm not saying that men should be allowed to recklessly cause chaos and everything, but there must be safe spaces where men need to experiment with their power and strength and energy, so that they can experience their true potential of their being and body. Man's body is capable of a lot more things than a female's due to genetically muscular, being genetically more muscular. And if you don't allow that thing, the guy will be bloated, obese guy. It will become, because he had not nurtured his body and full potential of being a man to its maximum. Similarly, this eros is responsible for those bright minds. Those becomes the innovators, the researchers, those who bring out profound changes. All of those people we known as leaders, and we read about in books, Mahatma Gandhi, Bhagat Singh. These all were full of eros. They created strong cultural shifts. Most women complained about men being on the top of the companies, and they were top of the pay scale and everything. Men have more eros. Men have more transcendence. The drive for transcendence. It is the drive for transcendence technically. And women have the drive of agape. Agape is the drive for imminence and nurturing, loving, caring. Female stabilizes the society by caring and nurturing. They are the nesters. They create a nest, and males have wings. They fly. They seek out things. They make things happen. So why shame each other on their identities based on their psychological and genetic and their identity drives? Why shame? Why repress each other? Why stagger each other? So it is totally trauma based thing, and it is a totally not a healthy evolution at a cultural level, and I'm not happy with it. I am disappointed in the way that it is turned out to be, but I'm hopeful that cultural evolution will continue, and these are all just catalysts to be processed by the collective consciousness. The shadow, this intergenerational trauma, unresolved historical trauma included those related to colonialism, partition, caste oppression, and continue to exert influence on the collective psyche. These traumas shape intergroup relations, fuel resentment, and hinder the collective development of a cohesive national identity. So, like all of those Dharam Yudh, Kashmir, Pakistan, and everything. All these are that kind of intergenerational trauma, identity-based trauma, everything. SCST and for females, feminist intergenerational trauma narrative and everything. For males, it is now creating a new history regarding their trauma that is ongoing. So there is this part dependency and institutional sclerosis exacerbate gender imbalance. The legal and governance structure exhibit part dependency, a tendency to adhere to outdated models and practices, and institutional sclerosis, particularly concerning gender related laws. This results in the system's slow adaptation to evolving gender dynamics, creates a significant lag between lived realities and legal frameworks, leading to widespread perceived injustice and fueling unrest. So there is a part dependency in a legal and governance structure. So there is like so much outdated models and practices that we have discussed. These all are outdated structures, legal frameworks, and systemic, structures that we have discussed, in our past whole section that we discussed. These all are outdated, and there is delayed adaptation. There is very delayed adaptation. So this creates a significant lack. So if there is a strong feedback loop which implements refinement based on whatever reality we are experiencing, based on new cultural systemic shift, specifically in this coming era that is about to come, the AI artificial intelligence era, this shift will be much stronger. And if we don't implement these, the system will not cope up with the development, that is, and it will create more and more gap, between those who are above and those who are below. But I don't think that government has any concern for those who are below in the, power socioeconomic hierarchy. The system's slow adaptation, evolving genders, created dynamics, a significant lag between lived reality and legal framework, leading to widespread perceived injustice and fueling social unrest. Reinforcement of bias, outdated laws, often rooted in colonial era legislation, can reinforce existing biases against men in areas like divorce, alimony, and child custody, contributing to the sense of systemic unfairness. These are colonial era legislation laws that are outdated and that reinforce existing biases and stereotypes and cultural narratives, and everyone will think that it is right, specifically those who are pre-rational people. India is indeed full of pre-rational people, but those people are conditioned by the system, and this is like, causing unrest, disequilibrium in a system which can be coherent if just a bit of brain and consciousness would be implemented in making these systems at a large scale implementation. And there is resistance to change, vested interest, including some feminist organizations that benefit from the current system, resist reforms that lead to a balanced approach, further entrenching the disequilibrium. One of the very important things, there is vested interest in feminist organization, National Commission for Women, get a lot of fundings. They will create resistance to reform that would lead to them not receiving, more funds. It is a political game. It becomes a political game because if there would be another commission, for example, National Commission for Men, they would not be receiving the same amount of funding they would be receiving now because the budget is limited. India is already entrenched in loans from other countries and everything. This is the reason there is high inflation and everything. It is competitive. It is the way this is turning out to be just because these powers, political powers that are running the show, they are also pushing forth for these narratives. And this is not just from India. This has come from West, and there is this global pressure from the DER communities that push forth, these kind of laws. And this is one of the reasons that this global level collective shadows are reinforcing these kind of female victimhood narratives. There is narrative warfare and a digital amplification of conflict system is engulfed in intense narrative warfare, particularly around gender victimhood and empowerment. Social media acts as a powerful amplifier, accelerating the spread of misinformation, exacerbating polarization, and creating echo chambers. It happened with Atul. Even after all of what he have done, there is misinformation spreading in a huge amounts. I've seen in Reddit forums, I've seen in either news houses even, I've seen a news post, spreading disinformation by twisting the words of Atul by saying like you would, like not feel for his child anymore, this kind of things. Not at all the kind of thing that is moral online platform can. So yeah. So this case demonstrates how online platform can become a battleground for competitive narratives with users deploying speech acts, assertion, directive, expressive, declaratives to reinforce in-group and out-group dynamics. So in-group and out-group dynamics, you first own an identity that I am a man, I am a woman, I am this caste, I am this country, I am this religion, and then you employ a in-group, out-group dynamics because your boundary is too rigid that you cannot include others in your sense of identity, a sense of belonging, sense of inclusivity, sense of love, sense of embrace, sense of harmony, and then because chaos. One of the reasons, which is the leading reasons of conflicts, wars, and issues all around the world, these in-group, out-group dynamics, and silence opposing voices, the socio-cultural atrophy and the need for holistic approach, the relentless focus on economic metrics coupled with the marginalization of cultural and human development has led to socio-cultural atrophy. This is characterized by erosion of social capital, a decline in social trust, empathy, and a sense of shared identity, hindering the system's ability to collectively address changes. So there is erosion of social capital. Social capital is trust, empathy, and sense of shared identity. The we space we create collectively. We together, I, me, you, others together. We collect in a group and we create a we space that we are together. We are a community. This is capital. This is social capital. The we acting in unity. Yeah, we supporting each other. This is erosion of social capital. These intergender dynamics, we live together, both genders. And this is erosion of capital at a large scale. So hindering the system's ability to collectively address challenges. The spiritual void, the point that I was addressing, a widespread sense of anomie and existential angst exacerbated by the breakdown of traditional values without a coherent modern ethical framework to replace them. Traditional values, people follow traditional values, this rules and everything. धर्मनिष्ठ kind of people जो जुबान के लोग होते थे, उसूलों वाले लोग we used to call them. And now this modern ethical framework is kind of very superficial. It's like very materialistic. It's not values, is about hoarding money, is about being more popular, is seeking approval, showing off. These are superficial values, and this void contribute to a sense of meaninglessness. This meaninglessness creates unrest. This unrest, is the reason, why, because this Atul Subhash was very low in moral development and very low in spiritual development. One of the reasons at the cultural level, there is no instigation. India is where we call like the country where there is Nalanda University, the first Takshila University was first established in the whole world. And, there is this, all the Veds were written like 10,000 years, the oldest Sanatan Dharma and everything. What are you implementing in this country if you are this and that? Where is your spiritual intelligence? Where is your moral intelligence? Where are your values? There is nothing left in Indian culture. But what is left are outdated laws that calls that Indian culture. It is based on Indian culture. It is based on this Pushtani virasat, that Teliyariya kind of thing. That is what we have left. So there is strong importance and need for spiritual development and moral development, and that in itself a big topic. So I would like to let you know, if you like what you hear, you definitely like, subscribe, share, and let me know in the comments whatever you would like to see on. The more responses I see on whatever topics you like, the better I would know that what I should speak on the next video. So let's see. Inadequate attention to mental health, a systemic failure to adequately address mental health issues. So it is overall. So systemic failure to address mental health is overall dynamic. There is very little mental health awareness, and even if there, it is not adequate, are not efficient. Those protocols, they do not, the therapy modalities are not implemented effectively. Even if anyone goes to a psychologist or therapist, they just are getting paid just to listen to things. They do not do therapy, efficiently. So that is another thing altogether. That, but main thing is like there is not at all any awareness regarding if any man can face any mental issues. So if anyone see a female experiencing any distress, there is a lot of people that will run away to support her and provide, emotional support to her, moral support to her. But for men, they have to handle it all alone. It is competitiveness among men, as it is a zero-sum survival game, in space of dating and mating, and also in space power dynamics among men, between men. It is strong for them, and societal, do not consider the importance of supporting, man's emotional side at all, which is indeed, then men take a coping mechanism to not feel anything and numb themselves off of their emotions, which becomes further an issue of hampering their emotional development, and then creates issue in emotional dysregulation, and that emotional dysregulation then create issues in moral development, and as those people take immoral, actions because their emotions are not developed totally, and it really messes things up. So then men are blamed like they are perpetrators, because the whole societal stigma create this cycle of perpetration unconsciously, and underlying with the underlying mechanisms. But this neglect has devastating consequences, as evidenced by the rising rates of male suicide. So there is detailed analysis, agent heterogeneity, and interactions, a gendered perspective. So there are gender as primary axis of fragmentation. So there's fragmentations happening. So gender is a primary axis of fragmentation. Atul Subhash case highlight how gender has become the primary axis of fragmentation within the Indian complex adaptive systems. The interaction between the agents who are advocating for different gender perspectives. So, like there is feminist, there is men's rights, there is traditionalist who considers the stereotypical role as ultimate reality, they are characterized by increased polarization. There is strong polarization, these factions, and no one wants to hear and understand the other person's truth. They just want to live in their echo chambers in the comfort of their reinforcing belief systems, and they really love that belief system and their inertia of that internal operating system that is governing their own life. So this discourse reveals a deepening polarization between men and women, with each group increasingly perceived the other as a threat to their well-being. This is what is happening. They are considering each other as a threat to their well-being. This is how society will collapse because families cannot be formed because each other is a threat to each other's well-being. So this polarization is fueled by competing victimhood narratives amplified by social media. So yeah, social media is not at fault. It is how cultural dynamics is, where and anti-technologists would say like that. Social media, if it had not been there, it would be a much better society. Yeah, we would be playing with sticks and stones then. So identity-based mobilizations. Individuals increasingly mobilize around their gender identities, often leading to the formation of echo chambers and filter bubbles online. So there is this identity-based mobilizations. There are whole subreddits that are totally misandrist, and they are subreddit that when they talk about anything that is being fueled by a woman, they label it as anti-woman, and that subreddit, that thread, that comment, that person is totally banned out. So there is strong cultural stigma. It is not only it is not only about India. It is global. This thing, DI movement, feminism, it came from the West, and this westernization, globalization, it impacted everyone on this planet, from Korea to Russia, Russia, China, Japan, and definitely all of the Eastern countries. So these major countries are definitely impacting. I have seen recently a lot of Chinese documentaries. They have been like, talking all about these gender issues, becoming exaggerately complex. So this hinders cross-gender understanding and reinforces in-group biases. So if you take things, within yourself and, reinforce that thing and you believe that thing that there is a ghost there and, I don't want to go there, and you don't tell that, if it is a ghost or it is a cloth flying by, it is a snake or if it is a stick, you will continue to believe that and continue to fear yourself out of that thing. Communication is the key in resolving these cultural shadows, and it is very important that we people talk about it. So there is breakdown of empathy. There is capacity for empathy between genders is significantly eroded. It is eroded. It will continue to increase, and it may continue to the point of cultural collapse. Definitely, if things are not healed, which are very less likely because there are less people who can do that, hindering constructive dialogue, conflict resolution, and the development of shared solutions. The role of feminist organizations are identified as powerful agents within the systems. They wield significant influence over the policies, resource allocation, and shaping of public discourse. However, the analysis suggests that there is potential for overreach. Some feminist organizations may be overemphasizing female victimization so that this narrative continues, potentially contributing to an imbalance in the system's narrative landscape, inadvertently marginalizing men issues. They are inadvertently marginalizing men issues. Okay, it is also done by the culture at that scale, but if this bodies that agents within the system that are very powerful, and if they do that, it creates major shift at the level of policy levels. It is important that we need to address this thing. There is resistance to acknowledging men's issues. There is perceived resistance within some feminist circles to acknowledge and address men's issues, further fueling polarization and hindering a holistic approach to gender equality. So they find things they can blame on, they can shame on, they can just reason themselves just to not to give a shit about what is happening to men, and whatever it may be. It is just rationalization, reasonization. You cannot reason them out of it. It is what they feel, that they are at war with men, and that they uh, cannot ever be sensitive and empathetic for them, and you cannot change that. You just cannot change that. You just You have to accept that. You have to work upon, that thing we talked about regarding ending the feedback loop of misogyny and misandry within your own self. That is what you can do, and that is what you have to do. That's all at individual level, at collective level. But we are talking about spreading awareness, working on various stuff collectively. That includes most of all discussions and communications. So need for internal reflections and inclusivity. Feminist organization will need to engage in internal reflection to ensure their advocacy is inclusive, addresses the needs of all genders, and avoid perpetuating zero-sum dynamics. Zero-sum dynamics is a really bad thing, as it is war, it is polarization, it is conflicts, it is disputes, it is being, feeling separated, it is not realizing the interconnectedness of being together in a shared reality. It is fragmentation of our fabric of society and reality. So zero sum game is not the way. So emergence and marginalization of men's rights advocacy. The case highlights the emergence of a nascent, though largely marginalized, men's rights movements. These groups face significant challenges, including stigmatization and suppression. They are often stigmatized, misogynist, and face suppression from mainstream media and established feminist organizations, hindering their ability to participate in public discourse. This is what happens to men's rights advocates and activists. Everyone very strong inertia they face. They are pushing on from very strong friction they face, very strong dissents they face, all kinds of name calling, abusing. They face a lot of things because they are acting against the uh, conventional narrative of the culture, the stereotypical stories that everyone has heard again and again, and this cultural inertia. That inertia is something that it do not want to change its state. If a ball is rolling at iron ball of 100 kgs rolling at 100 kilometers per hour, it won't stop easily. It will take effort. It will take acceleration in the opposite direction or in the same direction if you want to increase momentum. So it takes effort and energy, and that is what is very much I appreciate that who are on this side of men's right advocacy and standing uh, for this uh, noble work and increasing the sensitivity towards the needs of men, as this is going against the flow of river. There is stigmatization and suppression, and they are often stigmatized as misogynistic and face suppression. That anything that feminist discourse don't want to hear, they label it misogynistic, and that has been a strong, force in the West. This cancel culture, and people are now afraid to even talk about things, as this cancel culture is dissenting voices, silencing, dissenting voices, and it is hindering, communication that would be required to heal all of these collective shadows. But it is like, oh, how can you say this? How can you say this? If I have said something, okay, I have said something. You tell me where I am wrong, where we can reach. So it must be on reason. It must be on, feeling-based discussions. It must not only be always feelings. It must be feelings with reason. It does not feel good to me. How can you say this? So feelings are not the always the right way to go. If you run the world on feelings, the world will collapse. It is what is happening. This over feminine energy in the world is doing that. Uh, Everything, these laws made on feelings, reactive, reactionary responses to the collective trauma. This is what it is doing. It is creating this antagonistic response in the systems, as demonstrated by Atul's suicide. It is lack of resources and influence. They lack the resources, institution support, and the cultural capital enjoyed by many feminist organizations that limited their ability to influence policy and public opinion. There is internal diversity and fragmentation. The men's rights movement itself is diverse and fragmented, with varying perspectives and approaches which can hinder its ability to present a unified front and articulate a coherent agenda. So it is not structured. I have seen these men's rights movement. I have been a part of this men's rights movement, and uh, they, I have seen them working. it is not efficient, it is not structured, it is not strategic the way those feminist movements that with a lot of power, money, and um, big minds of working. Men's rights movements are diverse, fragmented, there are various perspectives, and I believe as more and more people are getting aware of these approaches, they will come to the surface and consciously, actively work for this cause that is not actually related to activism but related to healing the collective trauma along with the necessary changes regarding spreading the awareness regarding the sensitivity to males and the related issues that exist at the societal level. Internal diversity and fragmentation, there is feedback loops and all linear dynamics, amplifying the gender conflict and systemic instability. So there is gender bias feedback loop. Perception of legal bias against men create a powerful positive feedback loop that destabilizes the system. We have gone through that. Perceived bias fuels resentment and anger. Men who feel unfairly treated by the legal system often experience deep resentment and anger, which can manifest as misogynistic attitude online and in their personal lives. So misandry will create misogyny. Misogyny will create misandry. This will not end like this. Will continue to fuel, and this Indian system is deeply misunderstood, deeply misunderstood. And then you are, if this law actually says, like implicitly states, like every man is misogynist, as it states right now, as every law is against men, with no safeguards or protection for the same issue that they can file case for, it is misandry. And then you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that all men are misogynistic. You are creating misogynistic. This country is becoming a factory for creating misogynistic men. What do you think? You will see unconditional, woman loving support just because you're pushing the woman empowerment narrative relentlessly. It won't work like that. It is not that, you know. Uh, उस जमाने में नहीं रह रहे हम धर्म वाले युद्ध में कि we promote a narrative and everyone will follow blindly. We are in an advanced society where there is reason prevalent. So resentment reinforces bias. So these attitudes, in turn, reinforce the perception of man as misogynistic and potentially dangerous, leading to further bias within the legal system and broader society. Atul's case as a tragic exemplar, Atul Subhash experience exemplifies the loop. So it tells us that each legal setback fueled by alleged bias and corruption reinforced his wife's position, emboldened her to escalate demands, and ultimately contributed to his suicide. His tragic case highlights the devastating human cost of this feedback loop. He was a feminist, as I said, seen in the last part of his suicide note. He wrote about that. I had that mentality about supporting him, the way he supported his wife and supported his brother-in-law and everything. He was not aware of the ground reality the way it should have been. But we cannot judge on that. It is like this. Everyone has on their own level of development and on trajectory. Can just embrace them, support them, nurture them, and help them move beyond the present state. But unfortunately, Atul has moved beyond this whole dimension of existence altogether. I do dearly wish him a peaceful transition into afterlife and may his soul rest in peace. Cultural feedback loop, cultural bias against man, particularly the expectation of stoicism and suppression of vulnerability create another reinforcing loop with dire consequences. So the cultural biases against man, stoicism, the thing that is prevalent. So these are the cultural biases, that strong biases that reinforces the identity, the stereotypical identity of a man. It is not based on India, it is planet-wide thing. Men are often discouraged from expressing emotional distress or seeking help, leading to a build-up of psychological pressure and a sense of isolation. Expressing emotional distress and seeking help, there is suppression of male vulnerability. Males cannot be vulnerable, males cannot be victim. So those who are the victim are the ones who will always often get the support, empathy, sympathy. Those who are not the victim cannot get the support, and males cannot be the victim. They are not allowed to express their emotions yet because they are strong, they are powerful, they are empowered. Why are you being weak? Why are you being a pussy? Doesn't make sense. So it is what that stigma is. So there is a lack of empathy for men's suffering. The suppression continues to a lack of empathy for men's experience of injustice, as this suffering is often invisible or dismissed as a sign of weakness. The increased risk of mental health issues and suicide rate, because this thing piles up like a pressure cooker, and this continues to build up. And if a person is not aware in healing and resolving its own personal traumas, like the most of them are not. And if you want to know about healing personal traumas on yourself, let me know. I can make content regarding that too, including depression, anxiety, suicide among men. So Atul's suicide underscores the urgent need to address this cultural bias that is not only confining men into limited stereotypical identities, but also creating a agent of making them less developed in their emotional development, in their moral development, and leading to a complete breakdown of their whole being that is known as death. It is very much important that man needs to move beyond this cultural stigma. So there is cultural feedback, corruption feedback loop. So there is allegations of corruptions within the judiciary, especially the demands of bribes for create a devastating feedback loop that erodes trust and exacerbate existing inequalities. So there is no trust within the justice system, and corruption erodes public trust. And at this time, Lord of Man, the youth especially are traumatized, and they are not able to trust. They are like, why bother marrying? They are like, there is no justice served to the man, and a lot of various phrases. So this leads to hopelessness, despair, and a belief that the system is rigged against ordinary citizens, specifically men. Financial strain and exploitation. The bribes add to the financial strain on individuals already burdened by legal fees and alimony, pushing them further to the brink of financial ruin and emotional collapse. The bribes add to that financial strain on the individuals. Reinforcement of power imbalance. Corruption reinforces the power imbalance between those who can afford to pay bribes and those who cannot. So further marginalizing vulnerable individuals and perpetuating a cycle of justice. So one thing I can reflect on that is that there is a strong hate from females towards the man, that they are empowered, they are powerful, that they do what they are. Then both those who do the rape are granted bail and everything. I've been recently seeing comments like that when anyone was asking like, why you're not showing empathy towards. So he was saying like, you guys come out of bail, you're asking us for empathy. Are you crazy? I would not ever give a shit. He was like that. Women are hypergamous in nature. Women always often see those who are in higher socioeconomic hierarchy, status hierarchy. It applies to dating, it applies to seeking out partner, it applies to general life. They only look out to those men. So those lower 80% people, common man, or the ordinary people strata, they go out of their awareness. And 80% men are not responsible of most of this world's problem. They run the infrastructure. They are the honest citizens. They are the people running this life honestly living. And those they are angry about, they are one of those who are from this power imbalance. It is a problem of corruption, and it is a problem of economic disparity, and you are cherry picking that and correlating it from a gender disparity instead of a corruption and power disparity. You are playing within the systems, different systems, cherry picking for that to being a victim again, and perpetuating that same narrative to reinforce that narrative. Very much strong cultural shadow. This is what happens in the cultural shadows, because that cultural shadows, you project something and you find instances of that where you can find in therapy, even if it does not make sense, it is not logical, it is, even if it is, a rare instance, not a common finding, but then you find that and then you generalize that thing. So it is also a kind of cognitive distortion that you generalize things. So a lot happening at a cultural level, a lot of shadows. There is system boundaries, external influences, there's the impact of globalization, westernization, and digital sphere. So the influence of Western feminist ideology. So there's the influx of Western feminist ideology, particularly through the DI initiatives globally, online platforms, and the influence of Indian diaspora has a significant impact on the Indian system. The uncritical adoption of the cultural dissonance. So the uncritical adoption of Western framework. India was a very traditional society. And if you are adopting Western concepts, you must know that this is should be the context for this country or this Will this apply at a systemic level? No, but they just like to copy these Britishers, these Westerns, and feel a sense of superiority. And by rejecting their own identity and everything, that is what is insecurity, identity-based country identity-based insecurity has done to Indians. They copy things from other countries, and then they feel high of owning that thing that belong to other country. That is one of the reasons of why this feminist ideology it definitely was pushed for a good reason, but it is one of the reasons that it was adopted in uncritical way. The bad part of feminists that were adopted regarding a lot of things, from the man-hating ideology to the non-context based dressing. So then if a woman dresses inappropriately in a place where even men will fear to go, she is more prone to be crime ridden. And then they complain like like men are like that. So they are creating these self-fulfilling prophecies by creating such situations. Uncritical adoption of the cultural dissonances without contextualization. If you adopt Western framework, it exacerbates existing division, create new forms of conflict, and clash with traditional Indian values related to gender roles and family structure. It had already happened. So there is a need for a culturally sensitive approach. So there is need of more nuanced approach, and that is needed to adapt global gender equality principle to the Indian construct. So the feminism came from West, and this global pressure pushed this reform into our laws. And what they reformed, they reactively reformed that to push this global image of India is not a rape capital anymore. India is very much women empowering, and they still cannot change that. As people still badmouth this foreigners are I am in contact with a lot of international communities. I am contact with, this still stereotypically say India is rape capital. You cannot change that. That has gone into your psyche. That has become so. If you continue to traumatize other people in your country based on the trauma that you have received based on your identity from the other countries, you are not doing a service to the country. You're doing a disservice and trying to prevent a false image and create a false image. Need for culturally sensitive approach. A more nuanced and culturally sensitive approach is needed to adapt global gender equality principles to the Indian construct, in recognizing the unique cultural norm, historical experience, and social structures of Indian society. The potential for negative and positive impact. While Western feminism idea contribute to positive changes such as increased awareness, women's rights, and empowerment, they can also inadvertently contribute to the marginalization of men's issues and amplification of gender conflict if not carefully integrated. That is what has been done here. The role of social media as an amplifier of conflict and polarization. The accelerated spread of information and misinformation. So they accelerate the spread of information, including both accurate and misinformation about gender issues, making it difficult for individuals to discern truth from falsehood. There is formation of online communities and echo chambers. They facilitate the formation of online communities based on shared gender identity, which can either promote support and solidarity or reinforce polarization, echo chambers, and filter bubbles, limiting exposure to diverse perspectives. So what we need to evolve co-creatively, we need diverse perspectives. We need spaces where we can co-create collectively. We can form a community that is devoid of any boundaries of identity and in unity with each other. For that, there need to be diverse perspective, not only diverse identity. What you will do of diverse identity for all those identities are, in their own heads, and those all are psychotic, crazy people. It won't make for a healthy society. Those diverse identities are crazy guys. So you need diverse perspectives, and you need those diverse perspectives to aid in collective evolution of consciousness, not only for this making a showpiece of diverse identities. This amplification of outrage, conflict, and harassment. So they can amplify outrage, online harassment as seen in the discourse surrounding Atul's case, to emotionally charged language, personal attacks, and spread of rumors were prevalent. So in communities, like in male rights communities, they have become echo chambers. In female rights communities, they have become echo chambers. If anyone comes to express their point of view, they are dissented by a large number of people, further increasing the polarization. So this is a polarization, and this is the beginning of the gender war. It needs serious healing. I hope you share this video to a lot of people so that this can help heal the collective consciousness at a large scale. I am all for that. System resilience, adaptation, and emergent behavior. So addressing gender imbalances and fostering systemic health. The difference is differential resilience in gender dynamics. The systems exhibit differential resilience concerning gender, while there's increasing awareness of women's issues and some progress in addressing gender inequality. The system shows greater resistance to acknowledging and addressing men's issues. This imbalance in resilience threatens the overall stability of the system. There is greater resistance, and that will not go away very soon. There is a very strong resistance in addressing gender equality issues. The emergent behaviors are systemic correctives. So the emergence of men's rights advocacy, however marginalized, represent a systemic corrective attempting to address the imbalance in the gender discourse and bring attention to the specific challenge faced by men. I was waiting for a long time for a systemic catalyst that would, create such an upheaval for, male rights in advocacy. And I knew that this culture would not correct itself until they experience something devastating, something painfully devastating, that they would have to move from their state of inertia towards a state of chaos and incoherence towards they reach a newer state of emergence and harmony. It is the time that it should happen and must happen. The need for systemic interventions that addresses the root cause. So addressing the gender related challenges requires systemic interventions that go beyond superficial resolutions and address the underlying cultural shadows, psychological dimensions, and institutional biases that fuel the conflict. There are root causes of these issues. I hope if anyone who is higher in socioeconomic ladder and definitely in the political space that have the power to influence things, strong and impactful influences. If anyone sees this video, just know these interventions and move towards implementing these things. I still have a lot of material, and based on the response I will get, and based on how my life goes on, manage things, I will be pushing on more things. So stay tuned. Key leverage points and recommendations. So integrating gender and shadow work for systemic transformation. So here is healing work that is here now. So gender neutral legal reforms with a trauma informed approach. So it is not only gender neutral legal approach we need. Where is the trauma? Where is the removal of misandry and misogyny from the whole system until the notions, in itself will become redundant. This whole system will serve to, self-sabotage itself. So otherwise, it won't work. Gender neutral, comprehensive review of family laws. Conduct a comprehensive review of family laws. You need to do a comprehensive review of them to ensure genuine gender neutrality, address existing biases, protect rights of all individuals regardless of gender. Incorporate restorative justice principles. Create principles of restorative justice into family law to reduce the adversarial nature of legal proceedings, promote reconciliation where possible, and minimize psychological harm to all parties involved. So there should be mandatory counseling and mediation. Implement a mandatory counseling and mediation for couples facing marital disputes with focus on de-escalation, conflict resolution, and amicable conflict, because in most cases, if lawyer comes into the scene, he just want to earn quick bucks in this corruption-ridden system, and he will make sure that the conflict escalates in any possible way so that he can, bang his bellies. Ensuring the counsel and mediator receive specialized training in gender dynamic, informed care, and cultural sensitivity. It is a whole another layer of systemic additions that are required if they would actually do these things and in a holistic manner. This is why I have told that I take things integrally, and this is how things should be all inclusive, not only fixing one part of the system. Because if you fix one part, those parts that are not fixed will reinforce that the one part that has been fixed into that state that it was in earlier. So this is why dynamic level changes are important, not only component situational level changes. Provide specialized training for judges and legal profession on gender sensitivity, trauma-informed practice, and the dynamics of power and control in relationships and the potential for misuse of legal mechanisms. Judiciary also need to have a specialized training for judges and legal professions on gender sensitivity. So judges and legal professions, bar council and everything, they really need to revamp the whole system, the whole ethical framework, the whole standard operating procedures and everything. So the trauma-informed practices should be the groundwork that everyone needs to work on. So it would require collaborating with the mental health community bodies and incorporate them with the governmental bodies like judiciary, and all other things that would introduce this trauma-informed policies. Because mental health, it is not about the mental health of male or female. It is about systemic level mental health. If people operating in the system health are not operating at optimal health, the system is not operating efficiently. It is important. They must require training in gender sensitivity, trauma informed practice, dynamics of power and control in relationships, and the potential of misuse of the legal mechanisms. And to implement that, there must be a need of complete revamp of the corruption of Indian system, which is less likely to be possible, but it would possible if the cultural perception regarding this non-normalization of corruption will begin. So this training must include implicit bias and an awareness of cultural shadows related to gender. It is a much advancing. I don't expect India to reach this state anytime soon in 20, 30, 40 years, but it is definitely a framework that people can follow for years to come. Can just reference this thing again and again. Policymakers, judiciaries, legal, cultural people, anyone who will just get this whole video that I have done, they will open their mind wide to everything that is existing at this time. Promoting a national dialogue on gender with shadow integration. National dialogue, we are talking. Creating a space and inclusive spaces. Establish a safe and inclusive spaces so open and respectful dialogue on gender issues, bringing together men, women, and representative from diverse perspective. It would be wonderful, including feminist organizations, men's rights groups, and traditional viewpoints. And I believe it won't go without any polarized charge, reactionary interactions and exchanges, but with the help of a mediator and sandboxed safe space, exactly, precisely. It definitely would increase and resolve a lot of collective shadow and create awareness regarding various aspects. So integrating shadow work, incorporating principles of shadow work into these dialogues, encouraging participants to explore their own unconscious biases, projections, and unresolved conflicts related to gender. Utilize techniques such as empty chair to facilitate empathy and understanding. So empty chair is a technique, a shadow work, where you visualize a person in an empty chair in front of you, or talk to them and just get to know their perspective, like what that person was actually feeling. I am feeling very angry with that person. What was person actually done? What was that perspective that he was having when he made you angry, she made you angry? And experience that, empathize with that, and connect with that, get to know that, first understand that, and then empathize with that, and then move on to that chair and see from that perspective. So it is a process of gestalt therapy, and it's very effective in healing those emotional charges. Actually healing, not I'm not talking about emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. It is about psychological healing, trauma based healing. Is one of the protocols for general negativity clearing, and it can be looked upon if you want. So let me know if you want more detail into that. Addressing collective trauma, acknowledge and address the role of collective trauma, so colonialism, partition, caste oppression, shaping intergroup relationship. This religion and everything. They don't talk about these things, and if they talk about it, people say like, "Don't talk about politics." What is the meaning of talking? It will only incite, wars and disputes and debates. So people don't even talk about it. And it is the reason, if people don't talk about it and then they engage into these wars and everything, just like what has happened in the Bangladesh and everything. They just keep boiling themselves in their own philosophies, and when they get an opportunity, they will be causing chaos. So it is very important to heal those identity issues and fragmented, consciousness. Shaping intergroup relations, particularly concerning gender, creates spaces for collective healing and reconciliation. So utilizing the empty chair and two chair techniques, employ techniques like the empty chair and two chair to facilitate this empathy for understanding between perspectives. This allows individuals to express their feelings and concerns to a symbolic representation of the other and explore internal conflicts related to gender. So, media representation and combating narrative warfare. Promoting balance and nuance reporting. So, media outlets should be promoted to adopt a balance and nuance reporting on gender issues, and Indian media is not at all good. So, they should avoid sensationalism and inflammatory language and perpetuation of harmful stereotypes. And yep, the Indian media do need a moral revamp, but they are doing good at these times relatively, where they used to talk only about female issues and feminism. earlier. So highlighting diverse perspectives and show the representation of diverse perspectives in media coverage, including those of men facing injustice, those challenging dominant narratives, and those advocating for a more holistic approach to gender equality. They need to have diverse perspective, not just choose a panel of their own echo chamber and then pushing forth a perspective that is very close-minded that they usually do. As I've seen the recent TV9 interview of Deepika Bharadwaj with a panel of feminists spewing bullshit. They need diverse perspective, not echo chamber that create misinformation and create cultural bias regarding what they want to project around their political inclinations. There is a need for combating misinformation and disinformation. So implementing measures to combat the spread of misinformation and disinformation online, particularly related to gender issues. This could involve fact-checking initiatives, media literacy program, and holding social media platforms accountable for the content they hold. So it is another thing altogether that media does not have this kind of regulatory bodies that check out, if it is showing truth or lie. So it is a strong thing that we need to implement altogether. But this is a very important thing in implementing narrative warfare that is going. It is a narrative warfare, also not only about gender war. It is a narrative warfare that is politically fueled, socio-politically landscape and fundings, backed up, by these organizations level. So promoting media literacy, investing in comprehensive media literacy program to empower citizens to critically evaluate media content, identify biased, manipulative narrative, and develop a more discerning approach to information consumption. So population need to move a lot of levels of development in order to be approaching these understandings regarding reflection, critical reflection or introspection on the media literacy. As at this time, they are very gullible minds and very much prone to misinformation and instigation of this sensationalism by these media houses. So addressing cultural shadows and promoting psychological well-being. So integrating shadow work into education. So emotional intelligence, shadow work, psychological well-being into education system is important. Self-awareness, healthy coping mechanisms, and deeper understanding of interpersonal dynamics. So it is about well-being, which is important for addressing cultural shadows because children are good at managing their emotions, good at their emotional intelligence, moral intelligence, spiritual intelligence. They won't be getting into all of these pungas anymore that are getting stuck into these fragmented identities related to religion, then getting into war with other religions and everything, and specifically related similarly these gender wars and everything. These really expand identity developmentally. So destigmatizing male vulnerability. So launch public awareness campaign to destigmatize male vulnerability. It is very important. It is important. There must be, these campaigns to destigmatize male vulnerability and encouragement to seek out mental health issues, challenge the cultural expectation of stoicism. This would require fundings. And that funding should require National Commission for Man and definitely donations from NGO. But to reach that point, we need huge public support towards women. Promoting healthy masculinity and femininity. So promote healthy models of masculinity and femininity that are not at all healthy. At femininity is overly masculine, and masculinity is becoming, extinguished overall. And where there is masculinity, it is overhyped, pathological masculinity. Femininity, females with females, it is not existing, in healthy way. Femininity, so a lot of cultural issues exist between, femininity and masculinity, power and agency issues, and also that is not present here is communication, connection, and this nurturing, embracing that is female drives. It is male drives, masculine drives. So male drives is prevalent within females and males in both. So there is a lack of actual female drive, which before the feminism, females used to have this to nurture the family, nest. Males, their ability to fly, to have the power and agency is being robbed of in the quest for female empowerment, which is a severe collective shadow pathologically. Provide accessible mental health support. So increase access to affordable and culturally sensitive mental health services for both men and women, particularly those facing legal and social pressures. So there must be support groups, and there are definitely for men, women at all stances, and they are increasing for men that are non-existent, almost non-existent. If Tul may have gotten any kind of support, he may not have chosen that path. So strengthening civil society and fostering collaboration. So supporting organizations working on men's issues, providing support, resources, and a platform to organizations working on men's issues, enabling them to advocate effectively, participating in public discourse, and contribute to a more balanced understanding of gender dynamics. Promoting collaboration between feminist and men's rights groups, foster collaboration and a dialogue between feminist organizations and men's rights groups to identify common ground, address shared concerns, and work towards a mutually beneficial solution, creating a platform for ongoing dialogue and collaboration, establish a national platform and network for ongoing dialogue, collaboration between civil society organizations, government agencies, legal profession, academics to address children-related issues, challenges in holistic and integrated manner. So these are things are very, very far away, but these ideals should be in mind that we have to reach someday towards implementing these things as we spiral upward in our collective harmonizing our systemic balances. So our collective this system is at socio-cultural political system is at critical juncture which faces profound challenges related to gender dynamics, cultural shadows, inflationary imbalances, and destabilizing effects of rapid globalization and technological change. So Subhash case serves as a stark reminder of a human cost of a systemic dysfunction. So he was cost and the urgent need for transformative action. So this integrates the analysis, underscores the need for prolonged approach. We need a multi-pronged approach that is not, a single-pronged approach that is, just jailing and, giving justice by that fulfilling the cases, but also moving on towards the complexity of the system by acknowledging the interplay between legal framework, cultural norms, psychological factor, digital influences, justice system, legal professions, law enforcement, family courts, everything. This is the way which we can go. So we can move into gender genuine equality, can heal collective trauma. We can integrate the shadows, that unresolved aspects of the collective psyche regarding male vulnerability, female agency. So a lot of things are there that we collectively have to do to move beyond this stage that we are in. And I hope and I believe that we can. This is the reason I have done such a long video here. And so let's move towards this end, promoting empathy, dialogue, and understanding, and embracing systems thinking and long-term vision. Well, the path ahead is undoubtedly challenging. However, by embracing complexity, acknowledging the shadow, integrating trauma-informed principles, and working collaboratively towards a shared vision of a more just and equitable society, India can navigate this period of disequilibrium and emerge stronger, more resilient, and more harmonious. The time for transformative action is now. A failure to address these deeply rooted issues could lead to further social fragmentation, increased conflict, and a tragic escalation of human suffering, potentially leading to systemic collapse. The future of India depends on the choice its people and leaders make today. Choice is yours, peoples and leaders. Let's not smash the matriarchy or patriarchy. Let's create equilibrium. Let's smash misogyny and misandry both. So this is what we need. We need to smash both of these. We have to heal both of those in existence. So this is I'm contributing this video and almost daytime and the whole night went into the creation of this video. So if you like what you saw, support me and get to see more of content like this. So have a great time, great day, and love and light to every being in the existence. And my biggest condolences for Atul Subhash, and also like to send our light in his and the afterlife, and definitely the transition as based on my spiritual development. I could understand and feel the sentiment that he had while he was writing those things and everything, the drive that he had. So this may lead him to being a discarnate soul and what's called Takti Atma kind of thing. So just send I wish for him to have a healthy transition into the afterlife. So much love to everyone. See you all again.